Yeah, it was a good time, man. I enjoyed it.
I bet so, man.
Yeah, we're live.
So we're live here on a Monday night, but what's it like to fish?
You haven't fished in 3 weeks? 4 weeks?
Maybe longer than that. I don't know. It's been a minute. It's been
too long,
way
man.
too long.
This I know. It's been too long.
But you know what? It's all for the greater cause, right? Like
when you get back out there, it's gonna feel good.
Oh, it is. It is. But I mean,
this big anticipation.
It's not like I'm not fishing because I don't want to be out there or
you're coaching.
I'm coaching. My boy is way more important than any fish right now. So
I feel you, man. Oh, we got people on here. Hey, what's going on?
Look at that.
Welcome to another episode of 10 Horse Money YouTube channel, Monday Night Live. Just talked to Trey. He is on the road. He's probably 10 minutes from the house, and he was game for doing it while he was driving. And we kind of called an audible and said, "Now let's just wait till you get to the house, man, because that's the last thing we want to happen." Is
it might get some good views. Like,
sure, it might go viral, but
that's not how you want to go viral.
He's got an angel on his shoulder, so I think he would be fine. But we just definitely didn't want to do that. We want him to be able to focus on what he's doing and stuff.
Absolutely.
So, got a good crowd in here already. What's up, Leo? I think he was the first person to reply. Kind of asked the question, "What's working for you right now?" I can tell you what's working for me here in a second. Neil says a swim bait and a wacky rig. Definitely a wacky rig. I was at Lake of the Ozarks Sunday, and man, you start skipping a wacky rig around. There's a lot of bass. There's a lot of small buck bass up shallow, a lot of 14 and a half inch fish. But you start skipping a little wacky rig, and dude, it is fun. I mean, you could probably, if you kept a wacky rig in your hand and go to Lake of the Ozarks, I bet you can catch 100 fish.
Is it fry garters or is it bed garters?
I didn't really see any fries. They're just kind of up there, kind of milling away. Some are kind of locked on beds, especially the spots. If you see a spotted bass and you skip a wacky rig, it was like trout fishing at Montauk. I'm not kidding.
Like opening morning,
because the water's like 5 foot of visibility. I was throwing the that Z-Man Slinker Z, in the Goldie Bryant, which is kind of like a baby bass in a power bait, like a Max Scent General or something like that. It's got a white on one side. It's a laminate white with green pumpkin, basically.
Okay.
But you can see it. It's not green pumpkin where you can't hardly see it so far. You can see that white. You skip that sucker out there, and it just starts falling, and fish just swim right over to it. And just suck it in, just like trout fishing.
It's natural.
It was. Well, it was fun, except I was only catching 14-inch fish, and we're in a tournament, and Well,
you said your knees hurt. I talked to you earlier this morning, and you said your knees hurt really bad today.
My knees hurt, and you'll see the video. I'm going to start working on the video probably tomorrow. We'll have the practice video out, and we'll actually have the tournament video. But Mike did most of the damage up front. He was skipping a jig around the docks and stuff. But I was, like I said, my knees were hurting because I was on the back deck. And I would come up on the front deck and fish with him. And I'd go to the back. And then I'd get the net and come back up and net his fish. And I was just back and forth.
So what you're saying is he's got the nitro, right?
Yeah.
What you're saying is you need to get a little platform so you can just walk back. So you don't have to go down the stairs, up the stairs, down the stairs, up the stairs.
Yeah. The old Rangers used to have like the extended deck. You need to build like a extended deck.
Like all the way through.
Like a pier.
Why not? Yeah. I mean, they got everything else on them now.
Darius is still fishing the A-rig.
He's up north, though, on St. Clair.
Oh, that's right. Yep. So, yeah, he's been whacking on the big ones. He's been catching the big smallmouth down south, too, on Kentucky Lake.
Carolina rig, brush hog. You can't ever go wrong with Carolina rig.
I caught a couple on Carolina rig, but I didn't keep it in my hand. That's another good one. Anytime those fish are up there shallow, and they're especially fry garters, man, the fluke's hard to beat. Texas rig and shallow brush.
I would imagine around here, though, it's about done, isn't it? I
haven't fished around here in, I think it's been a couple of weeks, really. Yeah. Because I've been working on this house a little bit, and then, I was out of town.
I went to get the little kayak out yesterday. Yeah, yesterday afternoon after that rain. Then I realized my paddle's at my buddy's house. So.
Oh.
And then we got moss robot around the edges, so there was no getting out.
Stephanie's throwing a grub. That's something that, man, I remember the grub used to be the deal like at Wappapello. This is probably 20 years ago. Some guys who just Texas rigged grub. You take that Zoom Fat Albert, which is kind of a bigger, fatter grub. It's got a pretty thick tail on it. And you Texas rig that with like just a 3-aught Gamakatsu EWG heavy line. Yeah. Although, you know what? I've been throwing those ring hooked a lot more last couple trips. The VMC ring hook.
The one that Spider turned you on to?
Yeah, I like that. I like those ring hooks.
What's the?
So here's what I think about it. A lot of times I'll run a bobber stop in front of my weight, but I typically will pull it a couple inches off to give that weight some freedom. And then if I'm getting into some really heavy stuff, I will, peg it because it comes through brush better if it's pegged. You don't get the weight on one side. But really, if you've only got it a couple inches, it's not that big a deal. But with that ring hook, you can slide that bobber stop all the way up against your weight and your weight all the way up against that ring, and you still get that swing, that freedom.
Okay.
So you still get basically the weight disconnected, not connected to the hook kind of look.
Any better hookup ratio?
I think it's a better hookup. I really do. I think no matter which way, it seems like no matter which way that hook is facing in the fish's mouth, that ring allows it to grab something.
Did you punch with it last year?
No.
Don't trust it to punch with it?
No, I would. I just didn't. I probably will.
But you're a straight shank.
When I'm punching?
Yeah. Snell or?
No, just
jam?
San Diego jam knot. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even tie a double San Diego jam knot. I just go straight single. But you're a EWG guy when you punch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not one or the other, really. I just
had bad experiences. So when I punched with a straight shank, it was just, I always caught them in the tongue or in the bottom of the mouth. It seemed like 1 out of 5 would be in the roof of the mouth where I wanted it at every other time. And that was snelled. So I don't know if it was just how they were eating it that day or what, but it just seemed like consistently I was catching them in the bottom, which is fine, except for when you hook them in the tongue.
It kills them.
You know how that
a lot
goes.
of times. It's weird. So are you snelling the EWG?
Just a straight Palomar knot.
I think you should not snell. I think you should Palomar knot straight shank and see what happens.
I might try that.
I mean, if you just want to try.
Yeah.
I don't have
I don't fish tournaments anymore, so it's worth the chance to lose a fish on that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
well, and you're getting them back in the water right away. You're
Right.
not putting them in live well and hauling them around for 6 hours.
True.
I mean, there was a couple fish that expired in that tournament Sunday because it got up to 91. We got back in the truck at the end of the day.
Really?
It was 91 degrees, and that's not just parking lot.
Well, I guess that's what hit us today, right?
Yeah,
because today was like first day of like
it
summer,
was humid and nasty.
We got that swamp East Missouri weather today,
right? Yeah, Jason says with the weather constantly changing here in Missouri, it's been a little tough in spots. It has. It's that kind of time of year. Even if you guys watched any of the Major League Fishing invitationals on Lake of the Ozarks, there was a lot of guys that struggled, a lot of really, really good fishermen, a lot of locals that, struggled. Michael Harlan, one of the best on the lake, he had a really tough tournament. Well, day 1, he caught 6, but day 2, he turned around and caught like 14 something. But there was a lot of guys, even the guys in the top 10 or the top 20, they had 2 really good days and they had 1 like kind of mediocre day.
What was the big bag of the tournament?
I want to say
20?
I don't think anybody hit 20. Maybe they did.
Wow.
If they did, it was barely over 20, but I don't remember. I know Cox and Carson had, they might have hit 20. There was 19 but there was a lot of like 14 to 16 kind of bags.
Right. That just shows you how tough. I mean, that place is chock full of 4 and 5 pounders, right? I mean,
yeah, if you can find them. I think they were, the deal was they were, you really didn't see a lot of good fish up shallow. So when I say shallow, I mean like 0 to 3.5, maybe 4 feet.
Did you see any fish on beds?
Yeah, we'd see one every once. Oh, I saw a lot of fish on beds. They were mostly like 14-inch fish.
So a bunch of bucks.
Yeah, a bunch of bucks. And every once in a while, you'd see a good one, and she'd kind of slide off. But I think the bigger ones were out there in that 5-foot zone. 5 to 6 foot, because sometimes when the sun, like on tournament day, we went back in this cove and I saw like a 3.5 pounder swim away, and I skipped my wacky rig up there towards it, kind of let it, but it just kept on cruising. But when we turned around and came back out, it was slick. The sun was at the perfect angle, and we could see down about 6 foot in the water, and you could see light spots coming in. You couldn't see them,
right,
because of the angle of the sun. But going out, you could see them, and I never really, we didn't focus on that. But I know that's how John Cox and Keith Carson caught them, because I talked to both of them.
At the end of the day that bite, unless you're just a dialed bed fisherman, that bite is it can be so frustrating, and it could dry up in a heartbeat.
That's what I told Mike. I'm like, dude, you got to have some, like, practically be able to see through a wall type vision to see beds in like 6 foot. mean, first of all, you need sunshine. Second of all, you need baby butt slick, surface of water.
Yeah, but at that point,
and then you got to know what
they
you're
see you
for.
too, right?
They see you, but like Shaw Grixby, he finished in the top 10. He's a notorious. I mean, he's one of the best sight fishermen of all times ever. John Cox, Keith Carson. These guys are all just premier sight fishermen.
Aren't they all from Florida?
Yes.
There we go. Right.
Speaking of Florida, did you hear about that tournament down there? Where
there was 30 over 30 or something like that.
I think 28 something was the last check, or
there was ridiculous. There was over 20 bags, over 30 pounds.
Yeah,
5 fish.
That's so you come in with 33 pounds and you're not like even top 10. Hold on.
You come in with 28, 29. You come in with 30 and you're like, I got this.
Yeah. Nope. Stand and get in the back of the line, brother. Here's your entry fee check
hold
back.
on. Speaking of Mr. 30, he's in the house tonight.
Yeah, he said he's been throwing a tube at him.
So I haven't got any pictures from you, Doug. So you got to hit me up with something. Give me something to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to jump in the boat. He actually got a request. Somebody wants to see him back on the stream.
Sweet.
I guess they're want him to give up some more of that Wappapello juice.
He doesn't know what he's talking about down there. I promise. I mean, he just goes out and catches 20 every day and just leaves it at that.
He sent me a few pictures recently.
Did he?
Yeah. Wappapello, man. It's just like any other day. When you get out there when it's right, it lets you know how many fish are in that lake. But it can be stingy too.
I tell you what I learned about Wappapello is if you don't know Wappapello like Doug does, it makes a big difference. So
yeah. Well, you're not scared to run anywhere. That's the problem with it. You get on these lakes like Toledo Bend, like Trey's going to break down Toledo Bend for us in a little while. You don't just go run around the lake.
No.
It's not like like Kincaid or something, or even Egypt. First of all, it's way bigger, but secondly, there's a lot of obstacles.
It's a river system though too.
Sure.
So
yeah, what's up, David? Hey, good job, man. CJ got 9 on the co-side, the LBL division. Good work, man. Good work. That's a good bag. It is a good bag. Several people that I know did really good in that BFL.
Over at LBL?
In Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky Lake.
Where were they out of this weekend?
They've been going out of Moores.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all going out of Moores. I think the last one, the super tournament's going out of Paris. But my buddy Brad did really good. Scott Rice finished 14th. He's had like 3 really good tournaments down there. Matt Chumbler that won in the coal side last time. I think he had a top 20 this time. But that lake is really
coming back?
Really coming back. Yeah, really coming back. I talked to
man. I hope you're right, because we'll see here in about a month, 3 weeks, if it's what it's going to pump out with the ledge system.
Brad said he had Trey as a boater in the Arkansas 2 years ago for regional. I mean, most of you guys that are on here know Trey's history, and we'll dive into that a little bit. But Trey's a young man. He's just 18, but
he's been doing it for a while.
He's been winning a lot of stuff since he was like 14 and 15. So he's already got this track record that's impressive regardless of your age. And he just keeps on going. I mean, he's sitting 6th in the angler in years, or 6th in AOY in the Bassmaster Open EQs
with 3 events
in. I think they take top nine qualify for the Bassmaster Elites. So he's in great position. And I want to talk about some of these. He's gotten to have. Is there tidal water in that schedule? There might not be. I think there is one. I'm not sure.
They go to James.
I don't know.
I'll look it up real quick.
I don't know, but I was just thinking about some of the things that might throw him for a little bit of a curve since he's from this area. And people always say that grass fishing in Florida's always kind of a Achilles heel type of deal, and then the tidal water's tough. So, okay, Trey just texted me. So he made it home safe. I'm telling you to come on in. But yeah, we'll talk about that. And any questions you guys have out there, get them in here, and we'll start asking him some of these questions. And we are going to be doing a giveaway. So the way we do the giveaway is sometime. You know what? Let's wait till Trey gets on here because
he doesn't know how
he doesn't know how we do the giveaway.
We don't want him to give it away.
Yeah, exactly.
If you know what we mean.
Sounds like the Chili Pepper song. Give it away, give it away, give it away now.
So St. Lawrence, Watts Bar, Ozarks, Eufaula, Toledo, Harris, Wheeler. So no tidal rivers.
Everything's going on there, and it's all going on.
Well, Bugs
here.
wasn't, was it? No.
No.
St. Lawrence isn't. Watts Bar isn't, no.
So he's not going to have to
He's
deal
safe with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way, Kobe. That's been a good – it's the San Diego Jam Knot is super easy to tie.
Now you're just like it's through and then back to the top.
Yeah, you swing. I swing it like 6 times and then go through that top loop, and then I moisten it. And then I slide the knot down, and then I pull the tag, and it's super easy. And you can double it if you're somebody that really slack lines them. And like my buddy Mike, he's a jig fisherman.
Does he tie San Diego?
He fished a jig for 9 hours the other day. Did not pick up a single thing.
Rod.
That's how he does. 1 rod, 3 jigs. He broke 2 off. That's it.
With the San Diego Jam.
And he'll do that every time. He ties the double San Diego Jam.
Okay.
You know, he's running back through.
But he's a slackliner.
Yeah. Well, not really. He just likes that security. So if you're somebody that wants 2 wraps going through the eye.
Well, and at the end of the day, you
like
have one line going to your bait. Like,
yeah.
I mean, the double is all fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, it's still got one line. It's not like you got 2 lines to protect.
I don't break that knot. And I set the hook fairly well.
Why did you go away from the Palomar?
Because of San Diego. Okay, 2 reasons. One,
because you were a Palomar guy, right?
Yeah, for years.
Like that was.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, but really, I learned the San Diego Jam Knot. I don't even remember who taught it to me. I just learned it somehow. Maybe Mike taught it to me, but it's so much easier. Okay. Because as long as you got weight, here's the deal. If you've got just a bare hook, it's a pain in the butt. If you have a bare hook,
piece of plastic.
Yeah, you just gotta have some weight, and you literally run it through there, hold it, and boom, you can tie it in half the time, and you don't have to worry about, like with a Palomar knot, especially with fluorocarbon, you do not want your lines crossing over each other. If they do that, then they have a tendency to break. You'll break them. They burn each other. They burn each other. So you always got to kind of pay attention to that. And another thing you got to make sure is, and I learned this the hard way, is I always tighten that when I'm doing the Palomar knot. I tighten the knot down to the eye, then I go through the loop, and then I hold it. So when I'm pulling, the tag has got the squiggly on it. I never get squiggly with it. Okay, if you don't cinch that knot up, like if you leave it kind of loose, and then you start pulling stuff together, you'll get like kind of burn marks.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't. I like work mine down slowly.
Okay.
So I don't get that. But again, I can tie just like you can tie the San Diego Jam in your sleeve. You could probably still tie a Palomar.
Oh yeah, I still use a Palomar occasionally.
I mean, that Palomar is, especially with braid.
And here's another thing with Carolina rig. You got to tie a Carolina rig. Anytime you're tying 3 knots, you got to tie them in a proper order with Palomar, or you're left with tying an oddball knot or something. You know what I'm saying? Because you've got to run whatever you're tying to through that loop.
You can do it the other. There's a
backwards way. Yeah, Alan showed me that. I can't think. That's too technical.
I've done the backwards.
The San Diego Jam knot. It don't matter what you're tying.
Right.
It's a little tricky with an A rig, but so is a Palomar knot. You know.
That's when I tie a San Diego Jam. Is on an A rig because it's a round, but it's a lot easier to go around this than
and you can wrap it with your fingers too. You can just stay up here really tight.
Right.
But it's a good knot, man. I need to learn the FG knot as well. I need to sit down.
I've done it like twice, ever, and I spent probably this is a couple winters ago. When we got our house, I was downstairs and I had a spool of braid and a spool of fluorocarbon, and I tied that knot over and over and over again. I think I had like 3 successful tries in like 3 hours.
Yeah. I did 1
3
out of 10,
hours.
Yeah.
Of time. I mean, legit tying it, pulling it, and it break.
Oh, that's right. Joey from Crockett Gator.
What about it?
Which I hung out with Joey for quite a while. It was a pleasure. Andrew Norby had 21 on day 1. That's right. Totally forgot about that. Yeah, that was cool. I talked to him too. He's up for doing a live stream sometime. So pretty cool dude. And he was fishing brush. He said he was fishing that kind of like brush in that 10-foot zone or whatever. and catching them that way. So yeah, 21 pounds. That's pretty solid. So we got Trey in the queue. You ready to come in, Trey? Give me a thumbs up if you're good. All right, we'll bring him in. We'll pick up in the feed here in a little bit and see if anybody has any questions. So, well, you made it home safe?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Did you finish that snack you were working on?
Hey, I did. I got me some Arby's on the way home. It was good.
Good deal.
Hey, turn your phone like horizontal.
There
you go. Now we get the full picture.
Let me get me like something to prop it up on.
Okay, cool.
Hands free.
Just don't make sure it's not your drink cup because you're gonna want to drink something.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking, probably be bad if you were in an accident while you're trying to do a live stream.
Probably. Y'all might see something y'all don't want to see.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So how was fishing today? Did you catch a few?
It was pretty tough today. We just had a big lightning storm come through here. I'm here at Hartwell right now, pre-practice for the All-American. And last night we had like a huge thunderstorm roll in. And it kind of, for me, every time there's like big lightning, anything else like that, it shuts them down for a while for me. So I think we've seen some of that today. I had some bite like a big swim bait, stuff like that these last few days, like big ones, like fives and sixes. And today it just kind of went down. You could see them. They'd trail a little bit, but they wouldn't commit.
Are you seeing them on forward facing then?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Forward facing, and then I tried to catch a few topwater fish. Later in the day, they got more active, but this morning it was pretty well 6-pound line, drop shot, jig, stuff like that. So,
yeah. Are you comfortable with doing that? I mean, do you fish?
I do.
Okay.
Actually, I've caught my three biggest fish have come on 8-pound line on spinning rod.
Nice.
Yes, sir. Drop shot.
Okay. Man, that drop shot is. You got to have a drop shot. That's
right.
I've seen that come into play a lot lately.
You feel you got to weed through a lot of little ones to get to a big one a lot of times, or
it just depends what you're doing. I mean, if you're fishing for a school, I can see it, but the way I fish, I'm a run and gun type of guy. I mean, most of the time, like anymore, but I'm getting comfortable enough and forward facing that. I mean, if I don't see a big one, I mean, of course I'll make a pitch here and there, but most of the time I'm like targeting the bigger dots. I mean, when you look at a fish and you see the head of it and it's got this and it's got a little gap right in between like mid body to the tail, and you can see the tail and there's a little gap in between the head and the tail. That's when you know it's that over average fish. I mean, it's a 3+ pounder, and then you can judge it on the size of dot from there and then. But another thing is like really good on judging your fish is keep it on the same settings, like 30 foot, 100 foot out. And then once you get comfortable with that and you get to catching enough fish, getting to see enough fish, you'll kind of know how to judge your size. I mean, not always, because when they set up, if they look at you, a fish can appear so small and it'd be like a giant. So, but for the most part, you can have a pretty well idea of the size most of the time.
Can you tell the difference in like a bass and like a black bass and a carp, not just by the size? Because at Kincaid this winter, I was seeing a lot of these like it almost looks like a bubble trail type of thing. It's a fish, but they're kind of like a ghost fish or something. And buddy of mine was telling me he thinks that those are carp.
I do agree. And like I said, I mean, a fish can appear a lot of different ways, actually. I mean, even bass sometimes will fool you. Is like if they're swimming away from you, you get so many different angles, and it switches so much that they can kind of appear like you said, real thin, barely see it, kind of just like a fuzzy spot, just moving like that. That can happen a lot. And a lot of times you'll see one like that if it is a bass, and you'll throw your bait, and as soon as it sees your bait, it'll like start to light up and get more hard and everything else like that because he's turning, stuff like that, trying to angle down. So it just depends on, I guess it's hard to say. When they're all in that like 3 to 5 pound range, whatever you're targeting, whatever kind of species, for me, I'd say I'm not an expert by any means. I'm still got tons of stuff to learn on it, and that's what I'm trying because it's the game. But it's those 3 to 5 pound range with anything. It's kind of hard to tell for me on anything. But once you get over that, their angles, their size on how they show up is like a bass is more narrow and stuff like that. But sometimes a carp will be like a super, like basically like a blob, like a crappie. A crappie is like that sometimes. It's kind of like just a light bulb like that. And sometimes those will fool you big time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what got me over at Kincaid was the drum.
Yep. Hey, drum. They'll flat get you now. The drum now. Them will get you.
I caught 2 or 3 that day on a jerkbait, just targeting them, thinking they were largemouth sitting over some standing timber. And man alive, I thought I had the Illinois state record.
Yep, I agree. I went to Wheeler for pre-practice, and I was like, man, it's kind of tough, whatever. And I idled, and I see some bait, and I'm like, stop. And I see a whole bunch of fish like directly under it. I'm like, yep, those are bass, like stripers, bass. They're gonna bite, whatever it is. And I pitch it down there, and they all light up, and one chases it down to the bottom, and it thong like that, catch it, drum. I ended up catching. It was so fun, honestly. I switched to a little Demiki rig on a spinner rod, and I caught like 10 drum in a matter of like 20 minutes. Just going around, and they would like literally sit underneath the bait balls like crazy. I would have never dreamed of them being drum. But
they're fun. They're fun too, except for when you get one in a tournament and you set the hook on muddy water and she rolls out there about 15, 20 yards out, and you think you got a giant.
Like the one.
Yep.
Those catfish can do that too.
Big time. If they don't roll, I mean, it definitely gets you.
I caught a big one on a swim jig, kind of that Josh Jones deal. It was like a 25-pound flathead. And it was, I mean, right over top of a brush pile. It was perfect. Sitting on top of that brush pile, rolled that swim jig across, she lit up, and it just goes dunk. I set the hook and dang near lost the rod. Like, just,
Yep.
And it was on.
I've had a few like that, like flathead on like bluffs and stuff like that at Cedar. I took my boat down there and just went around, and I found like, oh my, there she is, giant. And I flip up her, and she just lights up. And as soon as it just falls past her head, it's just like massive thump. And you just lean into them. It's like going sideways. I know what you mean.
Cedar's got some big flathead.
That's where that one was at.
Okay, yeah. Cedar's got some big ones in there.
Some big ones.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. I've seen some.
I can't believe that there's not more people that target them over there. I know we're way off basis here, but we can go down this path. But
right,
there's a good amount of giant catfish in that lake.
There is a lot. There's a population of everything in that lake. That lake's it's good. It used to be really good, and now it's got a lot of pressure. But I know, like back when I first started fishing, me and my cousin would go down there and like we'd fish anything like grass into the points with like a big jig and just like stroke them, just big ones and stuff like that. And it's still really good. But I think that was the craziest day of fishing I've ever had. Was down there quite a while ago. It was crazy.
It's funny. He says that Cedar was really good. How old are you, Trey?
18.
18.
little bit changed. Maybe not a long time.
Well,
I
tell you what though. I'm 36.
I'm 50.
You're 50. And we both hear the stories. Back in the day, it was really, really good.
Like in the 80s and 90s.
It was before the grass took over.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure Rick can tell you. And like Ron DeRosa, he's fished it back in the heydays, and it was. If you didn't have an 8-pounder on one of those little Wednesday night tournaments, you didn't win big bass. Sometimes there are multiple 8s brought in, and it's pretty rare to see a 7 now. I mean,
it is.
You'll see a 6. You know, you'll see some 6s. Now you see plenty of 5s.
You see a lot of small 6s though.
Yeah, small 6s usually.
Yeah, you don't see a 688, 6 3/4.
It's kind of rare now. I mean, every once in a while somebody will bring in a 7 or a mid 6, but.
And that's like Egypt, like everybody was talking about back in the day when it did have grass, on how crazy it was. I've never seen that. Even Egypt's always been the same to me, but it's I know back in the day they said it was insane.
I heard that there was a little bit coming back in there.
There is.
Last couple years. It's gotten a lot better, right?
Actually, like super big time. It's starting to like I know a lot of my banks I used to crank and no more cranking. I know everything like that. So I mean, it's actually a big population of grass is coming.
And the weights have gotten a little bit better. It seems like
they have. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're seeing some 4 for 16-pound bags now, which is
there was one earlier that was 20.
20 for 4.
Yeah.
Yep. 20 for 4.
That's pretty massive there.
Yeah, really good.
Here's a question. First question of
let's go over the giveaway first. Here we got.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
we got Trey in here. We almost got 100 people in here.
Okay, so we are going to be doing a giveaway here in a little bit, and there's a lot of new faces on here. The way the giveaway works is, and Trey doesn't even know this. This is the first time you're hearing this. Sometime during the stream, we're going to make a reference to Sasquatch. So when you guys hear the word Sasquatch, guess a number between 1 and 200, and Trey, pick that number. We have it written down right here. whoever guesses that number is going to win a $25 gift card from Baitworks. So keep your ears open. It's just going to happen randomly. And
it's usually pretty organic.
Typing. It's pretty organic. Yeah. So first question. Zach says, what do you guys think about bait fuel? Have you had any experience with bait fuel, Trey? If so, what are your thoughts on it?
I have. I would say now I'm sponsored by Bait Pop, but bait fuel, it's like anything else. Scent for me is confidence. And another thing, like I mean, a lot of people say anything else. Like, you get out there, it's a tough day. There's short striking, there's stuff like that. I feel like it's definitely another thing that coaxes them into it. You know, I mean, a lot of ways. Like, actually, right now, here they won't eat a drop shot unless it's like on bottom. So you can pitch to a suspended fish all the way out there, and they'll trail it all the way down and just sit there like this. And why some of them eat them, why some of them don't, no idea. But I feel like scent, bait fuel, like all them types of baits, and Bait Pop as well. I feel like it's just another thing, another edge that can give you maybe than the next guy or anything else that's fish that spot or anything else like that. I do agree with it. I think it's definitely a good option.
So here's my take on it. And like you said, not just bait fuel or Bait Pop, but scent in general.
Yep.
I really feel like around the spawn, in the winter maybe, and then around the spawn, it can make a big difference, because like you're saying, it definitely doesn't hurt. There's no doubt that it doesn't hurt, and everything you can do to mask your natural oils. If you've put gas in the boat, you know, there's a lot of scents, sunscreen. There's a lot of scents on our hands that we don't realize. Just rubbing, you know, doing this, that puts scent. And when you're putting this, you know, soft plastic bait on there, you're getting that scent. So if you have something that smells like garlic or whatever, something different, it's gonna help and put the odds in your favor. And I really do. I've seen it. I know you've seen it before, where you're flipping something around and you're getting them to barely touch it, and they won't take it, and you put some scent on there of some sort. Next thing you know, I
had an offshore spot last year, right when like bait. It was last year was bait fuel came out, right?
It's been around for a couple of years. I think it just kind of got maybe popular last year.
Yeah, it was an offshore spot, and I saw them out there on forward facing. I was lined up, threw everything under the sun at them. Nothing. Went back through the rotation. First one was just a Magnum shaky head. Dropped a little bait fuel on it. Threw it out there. First cast. Dunk. Like, something to this. Then proceeded to catch every single one of them out of that school.
Yeah. On
that same cast. That I had just went through the entire rotation of offshore stuff. 7 or 8 different baits and never got a bite.
Well, look at the max scent stuff.
Right. That stuff is wild too.
I mean, there's something to the max. Power bait's been around forever, and it's always been a good scent. And then you look at the smallmouth and the way they react to the max scent. I mean, those flatworms were like gold for like 2 years ago or something like that. I mean, you could not find them anywhere. They were going for $25-$30 a bag.
Yeah.
That's not because they weren't working, you know?
Absolutely. And that's like another thing, like largemouth, definitely. I mean, it's kind of largemouth and smallmouth, like I said, smallmouth more of a sight, smell, stuff like that. So, I mean, if I'm smallmouth fishing, I ain't going anywhere without scent. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
That's definitely for sure. But yeah, I think like largemouth, like you said, it don't hurt ever. And I mean, like I said, and it's another thing, just confidence, man. Confidence is my whole key in fishing, I think. I mean, if you don't have confidence in a bait, you might as well put it down and pick up something you do. I mean, it's like anywhere I go, I got this one jig I throw, and it's just my confidence bait. If I'm not catching them, go back to Old Faithful, and you just tie her on and go fishing, you know. And I feel like that's a lot of people's strength, is just having confidence in a bait.
Yeah, and then if you have that much confidence in a jig and you're throwing it and they're not biting it, well, they're just not biting a jig. It's not the jig. They're just not on a jig. You know what I'm saying? Because you know if that jig works. There's no reason to pull out 7 or 8 different jigs and tie them on and start playing around with all that stuff. I mean, sure, sometimes you can change the trailer and maybe the weights and stuff, but you're right. Confidence is key in everything. And you won't, if you're fishing a bait you don't have confidence in, you're not going to fish it right, especially something like a shaky head or a jig that you really need to slow down. And it's not going to work because you don't trust what you're throwing. It's huge.
It's like anything else. I mean, when you know that bait's a capability, and know what it can do, it just changes everything. Like, I mean, when you know a bait can do what you've seen and what other people's seen, taking people's word on stuff and have that confidence, and that's like a jig, for instance. I mean, there's so many different ways you can fish it. You can swim it, skip it, pitch it, drag it. I mean, there's so many different ways. And that's why I love it. I mean, and like I said, they're not biting a jig. Like just in general, mid-lake, whatever else, it's clear water. I mean, I'll go bury myself in the most dirtiest water I can find. And a lot of times that's helped in a lot of these lakes here. Like, I mean, Hartwell, I mean, it's super clear. Everything else like that, you got to drop your line size, everything about it. And heck, I mean, you can find dirty water in certain places. And I mean, sometimes when it's tough, I feel like dirty water makes the conditions. I mean, it kind of filters it out, like wind, current, dirty water, stuff like that on like a bluebird day is definitely a lot better option in my opinion.
Well, I mean, you grew up on a tough fishery, right? I mean, you grew up fishing Wren Lake where you got to turn them loose to catch them again to fill out your limit.
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, it's
basically.
I was going to ask you, what's the deepest fish you've ever caught on Wren Lake?
I would say in the 12-foot range.
Okay. That's deeper than I thought. I
Yep.
figured you'd say like 5 or 6.
Follow up. Boat sitting in 12-foot or casting to 12-foot?
Actually, right? I know.
Boat and 12,
that's the
casting
thing,
to 2.
Off a bridge and anything else like that on a tougher day. I mean, you can occasionally catch one way out off there. But actually, just like on a little offshore place, I was idling one day and I just thought it looked good, man. I picked up my jig and fired out there, and man, I actually found me a little hole there. I've caught a few off here and there. It's not consistent at all. I've never found anything offshore that's consistent out there. And I mean, I think it's right in it's 10 to 12 foot of water.
Okay. But that's back to your grinder. I mean, you got your confidence flipping a jig at Wren Lake. I mean, you fish Southern Illinois, and most of those lakes over there are pretty dang tough. With the exception of a handful that have grass.
Well, Shelbyville's notoriously tough.
Yeah,
Wren's
tough.
pretty
The
tough.
bigger lakes, at least. The bigger lakes are tough over there.
Yes,
and you're fishing dirty water, flipping a jig. So that's how you grew up fishing, right? I mean, you don't. That's home.
So that's that right there. That mindset is had to have helped you when you're in a tournament situation and it is tough. You're used to only getting a small amount of bites, so you can keep your head down, not get spun out, and keep on grinding. And
that's the thing I like. That's one thing I like from where I came from is knowing how to handle a tough day, knowing how to handle hardship. Like I said, you get 5 bites and you lose one, and then all of a sudden everything just falls apart. And a lot of that around home, like, I mean, that's pretty normal. You try that. I mean, that's your goal. Get 5 bites, and then if you get a big bite, good. If not, cold once or twice. I mean, that's a good day on Wren Lake. So I mean, it just coming from there helps, man. And pressure and other things. I mean, our lakes get hammered. Like I said, on Egypt, we'll have 3 tournaments on a weekend in the spring. I mean, there's 50 boats in one, 70 in another. I mean, it gets crazy out there. And just learning how to fish behind somebody, because I know some people I've been with, we'd be fishing and he'd see a guy over there go down this bank and leave, and he'd be like, "I know there's fish over there, but he just fished it." I'm like, "Dude," I was like, "There's still fish there, I guarantee it." Stuff thing, just learning how to like handle that, because I mean, at home you're always fishing behind somebody if you get on a bad rotation, and I feel like that helped me a lot.
So you see somebody going down the bank, and that's a good stretch. Maybe you pre-fish that area, and there's maybe there's fish on that bank or at least in that area. And you said you have no problem pulling in behind them. Are you paying attention? Are you trying to pay attention to what they're throwing? Throw something different? Are you maybe backing out deeper? Are you going shallower? What are you doing differently than the guy that you just watched go down the bank in front of you?
Basically, I watch how deep they sit. Because a lot of times, let's say, for instance, you're fishing laydowns. A lot of guys, like you said, I mean, of course, the base is awesome. I mean, that's for sure. And sometimes the tip of them. But I'll tell you what, when you look at a laydown, and I mean, you can only see the trunk, and it just runs out in the water. I mean, it looks like nothing, it's just one little limb. But I mean, you look up there on the bank and look at a tree. I mean, it's got all these limbs and everything like that. But if you don't visually see that in the lake, I mean, you can't see it in this dirty water or anything. A lot of times you'll just run over the top of it, make a few flips on the base, along to the left and the right. Well, actually, I'll back off. And setting up on a laydown is a big key, I think, to a lot of places. I mean, if you just look at a laydown in the water in clear water and see all the places they can hide, I mean, it's insane, really. Because, I mean, they always want to be on the backside. Because when you have a laydown coming, I mean, it preserves shade. They like to be up next to them. But a lot of times they like to hit their back right on the back of it. When something swims down that log or anything in attack range, I mean, they're going to grab it. And I feel like that's a lot of time is coming down a log right. Because, I mean, if you don't come down a log right, it's easy to pin one. I mean, a lot of times. I mean, you can pin them really easy in a fork, anything else like that. But if you come straight out with it, your percentages to make seem to help a lot better on landing on a big one anyways.
So you think a lot of times the bass are maybe suspended like up against that log versus being on the bottom?
Some days I feel like, yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
And depends what stage you're on too. I feel like early spring, something like that, they might be on the very tips of it. More of like the spawn, they might be up at on the deal. It depends on which laydowns in the back of the pockets, main lake laydowns. I feel like that has a lot to do with where they sit as well. Depends on what stage you're in. But a lot of times for me, if I'm going behind somebody, I'm trying to get where nobody would ever think, like, I mean, you're going down through there, there's a bush that's just way back here. Just like you got a whole line of bushes, let's say, and you got one willow tree way back here. I mean, you got to skip it, angle it all, get back here, maybe flip over a bush for all instance, anything just to get back here. And I'm telling you, fish will sit crazy shallow sometimes on our lakes anyways, dirt shallow, stuff like that, dirty water. And I feel like that helps me a lot, is just trying to get to where my goal is to get where nobody else has been, not the normal bait would be back here or anything else like that. More unpressured area, I feel like, other than the edge. Because, I mean, most people, you go down the bank, you go and fish the edge of the bushes, the main bushes, but I feel like there's those certain few fish that might get way back up in there.
I remember talking to Trevor McKinney. Is that your cousin? Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Sir.
Okay. So he was on here a while back, and we were talking about Wren Lake, and I asked him, what's one key to Wren Lake that you do that maybe not everybody does? And he said, not just Wren Lake, but he said, you would not believe how shallow fish get.
Yep.
You would think that there's no way
in the dead of the summer too.
Yeah. And you would think that their back would be sticking out of the water. And that was something that he said was one of his strong suits, is just fishing shallower than you think that a fish could really be. And
yep.
That's got to be from fishing Wren Lake a lot, because I know those fish notoriously get shallow. Wappapello is another lake. It's over here in southeast Missouri, but they will get, when that water is 90 degrees, they'll be up in a foot of water.
Yep.
The water quality is just better up there shallow in the summertime on some of these lakes. And so you're kind of seconding what Trevor said about that fish being that super shallow in the summertime and any time of the year.
Absolutely. I mean, I like when you pitch up there and you're getting ready to get a bite before he even bites it, you see the water move or something like that. I mean, that's just like, I live for that. That's awesome. Stuff like that. But I know like Crab Orchard, anything that's like that has water willow. And like you said, better oxygen, better water quality up shallow like that, even sometimes behind the weeds. And you would think you could see them. I mean, it's so shallow back there, but sometimes them fish blend in like crazy sometimes.
They do that even in clear water.
Yep.
The guy I'm fishing with in the Anglers in Action at Lake of the Ozarks this year, I remember fishing with him on Table Rock, and Table Rock was high. It was up probably, I don't know, the water was in the bushes, but it was still like 12, 14-foot visibility.
Yep.
He was flipping a 3/4 ounce jig in 3 foot of water. It looked like, I mean, it's a fish aquarium. You could see every single
rocks on the bottom of the lake.
You could see little shrimp moving around. It literally looked like you were looking into a 55-gallon aquarium. Yep. And I'm thinking, there is no way that there is going to be a fish in that clear water up that shallow. And he caught 2 or 3, 3 to 4 pound fish. And it's like, you can see everything. You're like, there's no way, but they blend. They're masters of camouflage.
Yep.
And they will sit up in the shadows. They'll just blend in. And I saw that this weekend at Lake of the Ozarks. There was a little bit of algae growth on the bottom, and you see the beds, you see the light spots.
Yep.
But you throw your wacky rig over there, and all of a sudden here comes a bass off of the bottom out of that algae stuff that you could not see. They were perfectly blended in. Yep. So unless they move, you can't see them, but they're there sometimes. It's just, if it looks right, you gotta fish it. So.
You're right. And another thing, like, I mean, you just look at a root wad sometimes. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, how times like up shallow and stuff like that, a lot of times like waves or anything, a tree right on the edge, they'll wash up underneath a root wad. Anything else like that in some fisheries, not all. But I mean, even a stump offshore, let's say. I mean, like just visually looking at it, when you're looking at a shallow stump, you can see everything, how many places there is to hide in a root wad or a stump. Anything else like that is absolutely crazy. I mean, if you just look at it, a good fresh stump, anything else like that, I mean, it's just crazy. How many places, how many nooks, anywhere they could get back up in there, and you wouldn't even hardly be able to get to them. So that's like when I think about it, shallow fishing, you make 1 or 2 pitches. Yeah, it's good. You know, one to the left, one to the right. I mean, there's so many places they could hide. And I feel like a lot of times, like on Wren Lake, you got to slow down. I mean, I'll pick it apart, just like left, right, in between, inch over here, inch over there, just crazy stuff like that. And all of a sudden, it'll be dunk and start slowly swimming off. I mean, and after you fish it for 5 minutes, it's crazy.
Huh. Yeah, a lot. Not a lot of people do that. Not enough people do that. You know, you're always in a hurry to get to the next spot. And I've heard that from some veteran fishermen say that you know, they'll fish a lay down like 30 casts, 40 casts, just over and over, just pick it apart, and then that 39 casts to get that bite.
We do the same thing offshore, right? I mean, we just talked about that a while ago. You got one little rock out there that you know the fish are on because you see them out there. Now you can't see them in a brush pile as well because they're hiding, they're blending. But we'll have one rock out there in 20 foot of water, and we'll make 50 casts at it. But we'll make 2 casts at that brush pile that's got all the juicy stuff to hide in.
Yeah, or even just a point, your favorite main lake point. You got no problem like
spend an hour there.
You know, pre-forward facing sonar. Maybe you don't even side scan it. Maybe you do side scan, you see some fish. But I remember if it's just a point you like to fish, you'll make 15 casts with the Carolina rig, and 10 casts with a shaky head, 10 casts with a jig, and you'll throw a crankbait. You'll make 100 casts with different things and then move on. But we usually don't do that on a lay down, and it's got, just like you said, it's got just as many holding areas.
But you know, like what Trey said, and this is something that shows you that he's a little wise behind his ears. He's looking up at the bank and looking at that tree up there and saying, look at all this stuff that's in the water now. That tree is the same species of tree that's right next to it.
Yeah.
Yep. And that tree's dead. It's got all its leaves off. It's already depleted all of its oxygen. It's now its structure. It's not pulling oxygen out of the water. That's a lot of hiding spots. Yeah. And I tell you what, that comes from crappie fishing a lot too. I bet Trey's caught a few crappie in his day.
I've caught a few.
Knocked the sides off of a few of them. I mean, look, think about how many crappie set up in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hundreds.
And when you pull that one that's about 6 or 8 inches up long, and that big old largemouth comes out there and eats it on the way up.
Come on. Yeah, I understand. And like there's multiple ways of looking at it. Like, I mean, like I said, I'm a power fisherman, man. I'm a rock and roll type of guy, man. If I don't have confidence they're there, I'm on to the next crazy time. Just like a few casts here, a few casts there. Like I said, that just kind of defeats my purpose. But there's, like I said, 2 ways of looking at it. Is you cover more water and hope you come across more active fish, more productive fish, or you can slow down in the areas you know and more pick it apart, like stuff like that, and try to catch every fish that's there. The more that's unproductive, like inactive, stuff like that. But like I said, there's 2 ways, and I feel like those 2 ways are very important on what kind of fishery you're on. I feel like a fishery like this, I mean, it's just covering water till you find those active fish. I mean, even though there might be fish here some days, I mean, it's impossible sometimes to get something to fight. I've been there looking at one, chasing one on live sonar for 30 minutes, it feels like, just chasing him around in a pocket, underneath this dock, underneath the next dock. And I know it's a big one. You just sometimes can't get them to bite. And I feel like right now that's what I'm doing mostly, is just covering enough water where all of a sudden I'll come across that one fish that's just not in a good mood. And he's like, anything comes by, it's live bait, you know? So I feel like there's multiple ways of doing it, but I feel like if you know there's fish there, you better take your time.
How long will you spend with a fish on forward-facing sonar?
As long as I can see it, if I feel like it will bite. I really do. I mean, I chased one. Let's see. It would have been today. It was a spot. I mean, it was probably about 3 pound or something like that. Nothing crazy, but first cast I had him bite it, and he just kind of nibbled on it, and I'm like, dude, come on. He just kind of pulled it down a little bit and then let it go. And then he kind of left interest and took off and just started swimming at about 10 foot of water over 30. And I just kept hitting him. And about 5 minutes later, whatever, I pick up a jerkbait, throw it way out in front of him and let it sit. I have 2 or 3 different jerkbaits. Like I weight one, I have one suspending, and every once in a while, occasionally I have floating one for shallow, something like that. But I let it sit way up on top of him because it's super clear water, you know. So I throw it out. Most of the time, I mean, it's crazy here. There'll be a fish in 15 foot of water. They hear the splash, and you can literally see them on forward facing. They just angle up and look up at it. I mean, it's nuts. And they'll watch it, and they just follow it all the way down to the bottom. I mean, they see it from when it hits the water. So I threw it way out in front of him where he couldn't see it, and I let it just slowly sink. And right when he caught a glimpse of it, he just ran up there and choked it. I mean, it was crazy. So, I mean, it just depends. Like you said, I mean, it definitely knows. It helps to know what a fish has done if it has made a little bit of resemblance of having some, I guess, intentions on trying to eat it.
Yeah.
I feel like that definitely pushes me to try to follow anything. So stuff like that. But up shallow sometimes, like I forward face shallow. Like sometimes, mostly it's out deep, but I've caught a ton of big fish like in 5 foot of water with live scope. And sometimes occasionally a little less, just depends on how you have it set. Because a lot of times when it's super shallow like that, it'll go up and it just kind of disappear, you know, when you're looking up shallow, and it kind of just, when it's super flat, you just kind of just see stuff. But when something like kind of blinks, like it just kind of disappears in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, stuff like that. Most of the time when it's shallow like that, most of the time it's a fish. And I've caught a ton like that, even here, and a lot of home places at home, even on laydowns, like flipping bushes at Bugs Island. I would go down through there and I could see, like I live scoped 3 or 4 actually. I'd always be flipping, you know, but I'd always have my mind set on the graph, and I'd just kind of scan back and forth. And if there was a bush way back here, I could kind of see one by the bush, you know, it'd kind of light up, disappear, light up, disappear. And I'd focus a lot of time on that one bush, and I'd end up catching one. Or on a deeper bush, I'd shine out there and I'd see a bright old bowl right sitting on the base of it. And you flip out there and it just don't catch it. So, I mean, it's crazy what it's changed. I mean, you can live scope anywhere. Actually, I live scoped one today in 8 foot of water on bed. So it's crazy. You can see a little crater, and it'd swim out, make a circle, come back, sit in the bed for a while, make a circle, go out, come back, sit in the bed for a while. And I mean, I've caught quite a few of them like that. I'm almost 100% sure it's on the bed. And actually, fry guarding is another thing with live scope that's pretty incredible. I mean, they were like guarding fry at Bugs Island in like 8 to 10, and you could just see that big ball of fry sitting on the top of the stump, and you'd see the fish just swim around, and then they'd come up and sit over the fry sometimes. Not often they do that. They'd come up and then sit right underneath the fry on the stump and just guard it, just swim around it and around it and around it. I mean, it's pretty crazy what you can see on it.
That's awesome. What brand sonar are you using?
Actually, I have the Active Target 2 from Lowrance.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, are you able to turn that? Do you turn that sideways, or do you keep it?
I have 2. I have a perspective and a forward.
Okay. Okay. Man,
so are you seeing a lot of those fish up shallow on that perspective then?
It just depends. It's kind of like I use it kind of as like an old 360, something like that. Okay, so I mean, I kind of like get it. 360 is too slow for me. I'll move too fast. But it's more or less kind of it narrows you in. You know, you kind of shine up there and you're kind of just glancing at both of them, and all of a sudden something catches your eye on the perspective, and then you shine over with your forward and kind of pinpoint it, kind of look it over a lot better. Because like you said, shallow, you can have a lot of flesh blend in like crazy. I mean, like I said, a fish, it's not 100% bottom. When you see bottom, it's not 100% there. I mean, you're going to have a few inches, maybe this much that you can't see stuck to the bottom. Like I had a Garmin at 32 like that. And I'd say at least there's probably this much of visibility where you can't see on the bottom or disrect. I mean, when you pitch a drop shot out there, I mean, you can see it go down. All of a sudden, it just disappears. Mm-hmm. You can sit there, shake it, lift it up, and then all of a sudden it'll appear. You know, this one actually, I haven't had a 34. I wish I'd really like to run one for one day just to get a visual, see it, stuff like that, because I've heard it's awesome. But nothing with mine. I mean, when I pitch my drop shot out there, I'd say I have a leader, something like that. Just depends on what I'm doing. If I'm offshore fishing, and I can literally let it sink all the way down to the bottom and see my worm sitting there at 30 foot. It's usually 30 foot out, 40 foot occasionally, but 30 foot, you can throw it out there and let it sink all the way to the bottom and see your worm sitting above bottom. I mean,
how far do you typically run out?
90 to 100.
Okay.
At least. Sometimes, I mean, depends on what I'm doing. If I'm fishing like here, brush piles, I'll run it 100 or maybe a little bit more. Because a lot of times, like I've been to a lot of lakes where, I mean, they're getting used to this. They're getting very acquired to the pinging noise. I mean, when it hits them in the head, they get to pretty wise. So when I'm fishing brush, at least 90 to 100.
Yeah,
that's a long cast. That's a good.
It is a long cast, and another thing that you guys need to have a good tip with live scope is another thing is I always point mine up so when the bait hits, I can see the splash. Because a lot of times, I mean, you're not gonna 100%, like every cast, see your bait at 100 foot. I mean, you can if you're really good, but I can't. I know that.
You can see it. You can pick it up a lot better if you're shining back and forth.
Yep.
I think it was
Cody. It was Cody Huff.
Yes.
Cody Huff.
He's like one click up on every one of them.
Yep.
And you can see your bait land. I can watch Topwater at 100 feet.
Yep.
But you can see it land, and it's amazing the difference of one click down and one click up of finding your bait.
Yeah. If you miss it a little bit, you can just hit your trolling motor, and then
you
see
the turbulence on the top, and there it goes dropping.
Yep.
I'm just like you, Trey. I'm not that good. I'm not 100 foot where I'm trying to hit a spot like that.
Well, the Lowrance has got a narrower cone too. You know, Life's got a little bit more give and play.
Yeah.
So
but we're not talking a lot.
No.
It's not a lot, but
no.
I mean, it's definitely it kind of helps. I mean, sometimes like it might get aggravating, you know, not seeing your bait 100%. Because I mean, I'm getting to where now it's like wherever my foot's positioned, you know, you can kind of just get water out, so I don't have to look at my arrow. I'm trying to get better at that. But a lot of times with it, I mean, it's hard to say wider cone, smaller cone. I kind of like the smaller cone just because I know when my bait's there and 100%, like I can see it 100, like good. You know, it's not coming in and out. Like it's 100% hard return right there, and the fish is right behind it. I know it's right there. I mean, it's within that distance of him or whatever else like that. Because I mean, you get way out there, of course. I mean, it's gonna go like that. But I mean, you could see your bait barely and see the fish real hard. Your bait might be this far off of him, you know, stuff like that. So I mean, that's why I like the wider or the smaller cone. I think it just sometimes the fish are inactive. I mean, I'll pitch a drop shot out there and literally let it sit in front of his face and just shake it until they can't handle it. So I feel that helps on some points, but it's definitely aggravating some days.
Yeah.
One of your better baits is a drop shot, would you say, on forward facing?
I would say put a 1-aught Gamakatsu G Finesse with a kind of, depends what kind of fisher I am, but Strike King makes it's called a Z2. It's kind of a Laztec, something like that. I'll drop shot that a lot. And a few of the finesse baits, you know, just there's a whole bunch of different colors Strike King makes. I mean, they make Morning Dawn, stuff like that. That's really good on like lakes like this in the sun, stuff like that. And I'll change up really on cloud conditions, wind conditions, stuff like that. Morning Dawn I mostly only throw when it's sunny for some reason. I don't know. I guess it's just like a confidence thing. But I'll switch up to like more natural colors, stuff like that, darker colors when it gets cloudy.
Stephanie's got an interesting thing. She said one scent that worked for me was when I caught a shad and it was bleeding on my hook. The very next cast, she caught one. So nothing better than real shad scent, you know, fresh blood shad. I mean, you can't beat that. That's better than something that comes out of a bottle or a can.
I remember an old boy one day we were getting ready to go, and there was a big old night crawler after a big rain on the ramp, and he went down there and he rubbed his hands all over it. And I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Man, I'm gonna go grab my worm now, and it's gonna smell like a night crawler. I'm gonna catch him." He didn't catch him that day, but
yeah,
he wasn't rubbing his worm the right way, apparently.
Right? Well, hold his mouth right.
That's right. CJ Canada says, what tips do you have for a 16-year-old trying to fish for college? Make it through regionals and have state for high school this weekend. Been fishing BFLs and cats to check this weekend. Thanks.
It's like like going back to the confidence thing, man. I feel like a lot of times, like when you're going to new lakes you have never been to before, anything else like that. Instead of trying to break down this whole giant lake, let's run to this end. Hey, let's run to this end. Hey, let's go over here. You know, save yourself a lot of gas too. I mean, I would look online, research, anything else like that. You'll find one given arm that's more consistent. You know, I mean, you got more tournaments like this guy's talking about it, and so put this together, and then just overall, there's more talk about in this creek arm, more tournaments been won here, anything like that, and pick it apart. You know, start from the mouth, go to the back. You know, just kind of figure out what they're doing, figure out like some sort of pattern, and then you can expand and run it all over the lake. I feel like that's helped me out a lot. That's helped me an extraordinary amount. Because I mean, once you have a pattern and you know what to look for, you can almost call your shots. You know, but to figure that out, I mean, I would pick out your most consistent creek arm, live scope it, whatever you like to do, and just try it. Give yourself a shot on that type of thing, on what you like, and then just go from there. And then you can expand once you find out what stage you're in. is 90% done spawning? Is 50%? Are they all still up there? I mean, stuff like that. I feel it helps a lot on going to a new lake and just having confidence, really, stuff like that. And meeting people. I mean, don't be afraid to talk to them, man. I mean, I've met some interesting people I still keep in contact with, and anything else like that. I mean, like I said, I mean, that's the thing about fishing, how many contacts and people you meet. I mean, I've met some of my best friends just in some random tournament I joined, and I talk to him every day almost. I mean, he'll call me back, what you doing? That's another thing, man. I mean, make contacts, make relationships, keep in touch with them, stuff like that. And just, I'd say, keep your head down, stay good on that side of stuff, just confidence and just all different lakes.
Yeah, somebody's mentioned how important it is to have, mentors and growing up, like your cousin. Your cousin's an excellent fishing, Trevor.
A good support system.
A good support system. Talk a little bit about that, because your parents are behind you. You know, Rick's helped you out a lot. You got Trevor. You got all these people that are just kind of helping you, and then of course you got to go out and make it happen as well. But that, I think that's real important to. First of all, you got to have somebody that gets you into fishing, you know, as a kid, and encourages you to stay after it. And then you've got the support system, but the support system's huge. Talk a little bit about that, about your support system and how it's helped you along.
It is. I mean, it's like anything else, man. I mean, and the support system awesome, but I mean, like anything else like that, when you go fishing, like anything, I mean, you got your one guy that, I mean, let's say back when I was young, I mean, I would look up to all these guys. I mean, just hammers, you know. I mean, every time you hear their name at something on this pond that they won it on this bait, they're good at this, you know. And if you do get, I mean, any chance you get, I would go with everybody you can. Everybody. I mean, even somebody you'd be like, oh, that guy, I don't know about that guy. I mean, just go with him, you know. I mean, there's no telling. He might do one thing different that just all of a sudden just hits you. You know, I mean, it's just like somebody slap you and then be like, oh, remember this? And you'd be at some random lake and all of a sudden he'll click. You'll remember that one guy from way back when, and he'll give you an idea. And then all of a sudden that idea will expand and it'll get bigger and it'll get bigger. And there you are, just catching them, you know. So, I mean, I feel like that's huge for a lot of kids. I mean, any chance you get to go with any of the old locals, I mean, anybody, literally anybody with a boat can go. Just go fishing with them. Just kind of, you don't have to take everything. Don't learn everything from them. I mean, everything else like that. But just take little pieces of everybody's puzzle and then put it together. I feel like it's huge for a lot. I mean, for me, it was. I mean, a lot of young anglers, I feel like it would help. Just anybody's knowledge. I mean, everybody fishes different. You know, it's super hard to catch somebody else's fish. I mean, if somebody's like, hey, man, all these fish are loaded on this thing, just go fish it. You'll just catch them. And you pull up there and 30 minutes later, hour and a half later, you haven't had a bite. And I mean, he pulls right in there and shows you a lineup, catches 100, let's just say, for instance. But, I mean, it's like you said, I mean, you definitely got to find them your own, but just take pieces from other people's puzzle and just put it in yours. Put more weapons in your arsenal, is so to speak, on stuff like that. But the support system is awesome. You know, I got my mom. She travels with me when she can. My dad, he always stays back home. He's the one that gets everything going. We have a Western store there that he runs. And, I mean, we always, anytime we get to go fishing, he likes when they're biting. I'll give it that way. He's not much into it when they're not, but he loves it when they're biting, you know. And, I mean, just keeping positive, I mean, is huge. I mean, don't be negative Nancy, you know. Negative Nancy gets everybody in a bad mood. And I staying positive is a big key in fishing. And it's just like anything. I mean, there's just the little things, you know. I mean, let's say your mom travels, whatever, 300 miles to come see you watch weigh in or whatever. You have a bad day, anything else like that. But, I mean, most of the time, nobody wants to hear about all the excuses and all the fish that it lost, anything else like that. And that's another thing for me, is just make the best of your day and just go along with it. I mean, some days it's just not meant to happen. I mean, I've had some practices where I'd have told you, I'd have bet on myself if I could have, you know. I mean, it's going to happen. It's my tournament. And it feels like if something could have went wrong, it was going to go wrong. And like I said, at Bugs Island, I had one flat tire going boat ramp the first morning, and I turn around. I'm like, okay, well, I better put my spare on it, right? Yeah. So I turn around after that night, drive home, and then I got another flat tire on a different tire. When I get to the house, so then I'm like, now what do we do? We kind of pickle. So then I take that tire off and just roll on 3, you know, and finally got enough tires to put back on it. But, I mean, it's just like anything. I mean, the Lord puts stuff in our way that we don't understand it, but anything else, he's always got a path, just might not see it.
I tell you, there's only one person that's going to listen to you complain or whine and that's your mama, right? she's
Right.
the only one that's going to listen to you.
Yep.
And then she's going to knock you upside the head and say, suck it up and get back out there and do it again.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, back to CJ Canada was talking about being 16-year-old and fishing for college. You know, jumping in the BFLs like you're doing as a co-angler is a great way. I mean, that's what I do. You know, I fish locally out of the front of the boat, but I also just mainly because of the work schedule and the extra money that it costs to fish out of the front of the boat. I still enjoy fishing out of the back of the boat. You know, for me, it's nice I shoot a video and have some content. So that's half of my draw to the back of the boat is to just have some content. Yeah, I have some content. This is kind of my YouTube deal that I'm doing. Trey dropped off, but so fishing out of the back of the boat in BFL is that's the right thing, CJ. I mean, you're getting to fish with a lot of different people, kind of like what Trey said. Get in the boat with as many people as you can. Everybody does something a little bit different, and you'll learn. Not only will you learn the lakes, you know, you're fishing Kentucky Lake. Kentucky Lake's, you know, it's what 90 miles or something. No, it's like 100 miles.
You got a lot of water
miles on Barkley.
Yeah.
So each person you fish with has fished a different part of the lake. So, you know, you're going to learn a ton just by fishing out of the back of the boat. And then when you, you know, after maybe you want to go check out another division, like the Ozarks division, you know, they fish Table Rock, they fish Lake of the Ozarks, they fish Truman, or the Illini division where Trey's at. You're talking Shelbyville, Wren, Galconda. So just in this general area, you've got Kentucky Barkley, and then you've got the Ozark Lakes. As a BFL co-angler, you can learn a ton. Do that for a couple years, and then if you feel like you're comfortable, jump up to the front of the boat. You pretty much started out of the front of the boat from the get-go, or did you ever fish on the co-side?
I never did. That was one of the things. It's hard to say on that. I mean, I done the high school or whatever, and it was really intimidating because, like I said, all these guys that you hear about, all these local sticks and everything. And like I said, I had a boat, and I mean, like I said, if I didn't have a boat, absolutely, and stuff like that. And it's a big leap, like I said. But if I had to do it, like I said, I would definitely start as a co-angler, just kind of get the feel for it. Just like I said, I mean, that's really important. Just get the feel for the tournaments if you're starting anything else like that, and get how people do it on just all the little things that make life easier instead of trial and error on a lot of stuff like that. So I think it's a wonderful idea, actually. I mean, even if, I mean, it wouldn't hurt me a bit to just go jump in a co-angler. I mean, really. I mean, I could learn. Like I said, I try to go with anybody still. Anybody I can, I'm going to go fishing with, even if it's on a co-angler side, anything else like that, and just take everything, all the knowledge. I'm just going to be a sponge. I think it's really important.
Yeah.
I tell you what, coming from a former college angler myself, go find everybody you can talk to, like Trey was saying. Yep. Go to the classics, go to the Red Crest, go to every boat show in your area. Go to, if the invitational's close, if it's within a couple hours drive, go to an invitational, go to an open. There's sponsors there. There's people in the industry there. Meet, shake everybody's hand, volunteer to help, do whatever you got to do to get in front of these people. Because you never know when that guy that you talk to at the boat ramp works for Lowrance, works for Seagar, and is now
it's a small world,
a lifelong friend. I mean, Trey, you and CJ aren't old enough, but you know, you're sitting down at the bar one night and you're having a beer with a guy, and it could be the buyer for
Berkeley,
and you have no idea. He's the marketing manager, and he's going to get you the next big deal.
Well, not just that. There is that aspect, but it is also just to meet people, and like you were saying,
you don't become good at conversation by not doing it,
right? And back to the BFL thing and the co-angler side is getting a feel for being in a tournament, backing the boat in, parking the boat, going through boat check, making decisions. That's the biggest part. And the mental side of fishing is just as big as anything else. Yeah, you got to know seasonal patterns and bait selection and stuff, but the mental side, how are these guys in the front of the boat making decisions throughout the day? You'll see guys that you can tell they fish really hard for a couple hours, and then they just they lose their oomph, and they stay in sections too long. They're fishing, they're just casting. You know, they're not really focusing, they're just casting. And then you see some guys that work hard all day long. You're bouncing around. I remember fishing with Pete Winters at Table Rock. He's a guide out there. He's been doing it forever. The guy's like in his 60s, and I bet we fished 60 different spots. I was blown away at how much energy this guy had. I mean, he'd lay down the boat. Sometimes he'd make 10 casts, and boom, we were on. We were moving around. So there's guys like that are covering a lot of water. There's guys that will really soak an area. There's guys that will, like Lake of the Ozarks, there's guys that are just fishing the front and the corners, but then there's guys that go all the way to the back and skip the walkways underneath the cables, every single dock. So you're getting to see all the different ways that different people approach the same types of cover on the same types of lake. And everybody does it different. People are, you know, the bait choices that they use in the same situations is different. And, you know, a few seasons of fishing, if you can fish more than one division, that's even better. You can really learn a lot in a short amount of time. And that's what it is.
Flip it from year to year, go to fish a different division. I mean, if
exactly.
It's not in the cards. I know when we first started fishing BFLs, it wasn't in the cards for me to fish multiple divisions with time off of work and the financial situation. But it was great to go jumping in a Illini and realize that it's not Kentucky Lake when Kentucky Lake was good.
Yeah.
You go fish the Smithland Pool and get deep in.
No, we ain't going there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Smithland Pool. I remember I think I got the last check and I had
like three
fish that weighed 3 pounds or something. That's how tough that Smithland Pool can be.
I tell you what, we had a really good day. We had like 22, 23 one evening practicing for ITT over there. We'd fished all up and yes, I'm not kidding.
On Smithland?
All in Smithland.
Holy
We fished
moly.
all the way up and down the river all day long. Every backwater we could find.
You must have been in Lusk.
We were. We went around the corner in Lusk, fished
the
some standing timber back in there. And I mean, it was like you pitched up there. There was nobody around. It was 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. We were dogs. I mean, just trying to figure out anything we could. We hadn't had anything. Went in there, made a couple pitches. It was like 4-pounder, 5-pounder, 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 4-pounder. Within 30 minutes, like we're done. Like put the boat on the trailer. Let's go to the house. We're gonna win this thing tomorrow.
Never got a bite.
Never got a bite.
Yeah.
Fished it all day long. So,
Yeah.
But that's the pool for you right there. So
It is.
Camden's
That's
got a
how it's
question for you.
Camden wants to know, what's your PB and where did you catch it?
I caught a 9-4 on a drop shot it would have been, there's a lake called 1,000 Acre where they had the junior championship. I think its name is Carroll County. I ended up catching it there on forward facing. It ended up weighing 9-4 on it, on just like it was a Strike King. I forget the name of the worm, but and kind of a more natural color. And then just a little bit after that, I caught a 9-2. I haven't been able to break the 10-pound mark yet, but we're trying. I'm getting more bigger baits in my arsenal, so we're swinging for them.
Now, where was that lake at?
It's in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah, both my 9-pounders I caught on drop shot were in Tennessee. One was on Chickamauga in the Bass Cat Classic, and then one was in the Tennessee in the Carroll County.
Huh.
So.
Oh, Tom says he'll never own any type of forward-facing sonar, not because he doesn't like it, but because he's not able to afford it. It is a pricey. I mean, everything to do with bass fishing, especially when you're dealing with boats, gets expensive. You're adding 3,000 here, 4,000 here. It's an expensive game. I agree. We got into I bought the GPS map 1022 Garmin. It's about we both did. It was what was that grab, like $1,600 or something? Or was it cheaper than that even? I think it was cheaper than that.
I think it was
something like that.
We got it when they were discontinuing the 32s.
Yep.
But not discontinued, but they had announced the 34s. Everything was going on sale, which was a great time to get into it.
But we missed out on the 34, which
I don't know. I know for what I don't think it's
better.
It is better. It is better.
I've seen
it is better.
It is better. It's a lot better. But
At
At the time, was it like 6 months waiting better and a couple $1,000 more?
No, but now I'm like,
now you wish you would have.
I kind of wish I would have, because
Yeah.
I've been in the boat with the 34 a couple times, and it's pretty nice. There's definitely the definition is better. You can see your bait out further, and it's better.
I wish I had a video of those fry garters or whatever. It's pretty cool. Like, I was pretty impressed, even with the Lowrance. Like, I know Garmin, like, definitely, like, it's amazing. But it's the active target 1, like, it's still good. Like, the first one, nah. But the active target 1 and active target 2, I mean, it is pretty impressive, really. I just kind of like it. It's definitely a different look. Okay, I do get that. Some people don't like it, anything else like that, and it has a lag to it every once in a while. You know, like when you're working a jerkbait, you'll twitch it, and then all of a sudden it twitches. You know, it's a little bit slower than a Garmin, which some people don't like, because sometimes, like fishing a jerkbait, I mean, you're kind of watching them like that on how they react to it, anything else like that. But I mean, it is pretty incredible. It's more of like I feel like it's a harder return sometimes with your bait. I feel like that's a lot, because like, if I can see a bait and a fish, that's all I need. You know, being able to chase them like that. But now the target separation, like if there's a tree, one can be sitting up next to it, and it kind of blends in with it. Now, as a Garmin, it might not as well, but I mean, it's like anything else. Like, you use something long enough, you're going to figure out the little ins and outs to it. So I mean, there's definitely there's hot and cold on both of them.
I would agree. I agree 100%.
I love my Lowrance. I mean, I have both. I have Lowrance and Garmin on my boat, and I love my Lowrances for the user interface, the navigation. But again, I've been a Lowrance guy from the get go.
Yeah.
The thing that Lowrance, I think, is waypoint storage.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, other than Humminbird, don't get me wrong. Like, it's the mapping is incredible. Like, I mean, it's hard to beat that. But the waypoint storage is where where my Lowrance. That makes the choice for me.
Absolutely.
So. Yeah, and like you said, it's whatever you get used to, especially Lowrance and Garmin. I will say Humminbird, their live has got a long way to go, in my opinion. I haven't really been impressed with it at all. But I think Lowrance and Garmin are pretty good. They're both really good.
Yeah.
I
hate to say that, but that's the truth, you know.
It is.
Daniel, I'm with you. It is an expensive upgrade. I haven't seen it yet either. I've just heard the stories. So
the 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get I got in a boat with Josh and my buddy Josh a while back, and
you said it
was nice, but he to be honest, he had 6-gauge wire ran.
Mm-hmm.
He had
but he had like the 54, 52, the high end.
He had the high end 12-inch graph, and he had the C Clear power harness. He had 16-volt lithiums. Everything you could possibly do to make that picture better, he had done, and it was way, way better.
Right.
So I don't know if we just put a 34 on our boat and kept everything the same. I'm sure it would be better, but I don't know if it would be as good as what his was.
So I got 8-gauge ran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our systems are really good.
I ran everything 8-gauge with a lithium, and I mean, I'm there with him. Just I don't have the 16-gauge.
Right. Yeah.
I don't or 16 volt. I don't know what the. I've read a lot of forums, and I don't know what there's a threshold there, and I don't think like having 24 volts is going to give you a better picture than 13 volts. Now, if I have 11.5 volts, 10 volts, then we're talking you're probably not going to get as clear a picture. But that 12.5 to 13, 14, I think you're getting a great picture.
It is. Actually, like I was talking to like Lowrance, and I was sponsored by Lithium Pros, and we were just kind of chatting back and forth, because a lot of people would have come up with these 16-volt batteries and everything else like that. And basically, I know Lithium Pros is against it. They're not against it, but I don't feel like unless they prove a point of how it is better and people that's what they want, then they'll make one. But as of right now, what his deal is he has pure, like, I guess, clean 12-volt energy, and it's like anything else. Like I mean, them graphs, I forget what it is. It's like, I think it is up to 16 volts, but over that, like, I mean, those graphs are only meant to have that, like, that certain voltage, anything else like that. And of course, like, once you get below that, the 11, whatever thing else like that, it's not as good. But a lot of times the lithiums, once they get to a certain point, they'll go to sleep mode anyway. So it's not like lead, of course. But it's definitely, I feel like a good, like I have a 12 12-volt lithium from Lithium Pros with a power pole charger and a 36-volt for my trolling motor battery. I have 2 batteries, and I've went 4 days and not charged.
Yeah.
4 days, not charged. I mean, I haven't even went to plug it in tonight. I plugged it in. This is my first night plugging it in because I run them instead of like having cycle. I run them like 2 days to get them like lower, something like that, then plug them back in and fully recharge them. Instead of just getting them like this and then charging them all the way back up, then barely getting it down and charging them all the way back up, I'll run them lower and then charge it once. And then run them lower and then charge it once. I feel like, and that's what the guy from Lithium Pros was saying, is better on the battery sometimes.
It's hard to get into that habit, though.
It is, very. Yeah.
To have that confidence to know that your batteries are going to perform, which old school tells you, you know, to run them dead, but it took a day to run them dead then. Yep. Now it's, I can attest to it. I think the last fall tournament I fished over at Cedar. Now, granted, I'm running an Ultrex with a 16-foot boat.
Yep.
With what do we got? 50 amps.
Yeah.
And I used, on the trolling motor, I used like 18 or 20% of the battery in 30-mile-an-hour winds in the fall. And fished in it, not tucking back in a cove. We're fishing in it for 4 or 5 hours, just standing on them. And I used 20% of the battery. That's insane.
I mean, it is. It truly is. And like even an Ultrex, and then you go to a Ghost, and it's actually more efficient.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of crazy, really, because I mean, especially like if I'm idling, I ain't even worried about charging. Like if I'm running more and running and gunning, I don't even think that's like the last thing on my mind. I mean, the last thing. I mean, I don't even worry, and that's like anymore, dude. I used to have so many battery problems. Like that was my biggest issue. Like if something was gonna go wrong, it was with my batteries. Like
absolutely
something was gonna happen. And
now it's your tires.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's my tires. But
does Lithium Pros make a good tire? Does Lithium Pros make a good tire?
Right. I had to buy it. I know that because I mean I got everything now. I got me a thing I can back up on and change it like this. I got me a plug-in kit. Dude, I'm like, I even bought like an extra set of those big lug thing. I mean, I'm set. Like,
it's amazing when you have an accident or a mishap, a situation. I like that. When you have a situation, all of a sudden your truck gets a little bit heavier because you just put a bunch of tools in it to fix that situation. If that situation never happens again, you're just as happy that you spent $300 on tools.
That's how we learn, you know.
That night I went in and bought this like huge tool set. And it's not a huge tool set, but it's like a big, heavy box, and it's got like the top and the bottom, and it's got like everything you need. And that is like, I kind of frown upon it because I was like, I got a few tools. Like I got tools, mix match here and there, like the most important stuff or whatever. I'm like, we don't really need that. I mean, it's kind of expensive, whatever else. And I look back, I'm like, I might as well get it, you know. And I have used that thing more than I've ever imagined. Like I've tightened everything. I mean, it's got everything. I mean, if I have one suggestion to put in your boat is that. Like, I mean, you'll need it more than what you ever think. Like, just little stuff, you know, here and there that you're not thinking about it. Something's loose or whatever. You're like, man, I wish I had a tool to tighten that. You got it right in the back. I mean,
and you start running big water. You guys are going up to St. Lawrence later this year. You start running big water. You come back home to the house and you make sure that stuff's tightened back up.
Yeah, big time.
You don't want something flying off. I mean, it comes down to graphs. I'm not talking about motors and trolling motors. I'm talking about graphs. I'm talking about windshields. I'm talking about everything. All that stuff comes loose when you're vibrating it. I don't care.
You still got to tighten that stuff up. We was on the way back from Lake of the Ozarks. There was a skeeter that passed us. His outboard was doing this. His power poles were doing this. Everything. You know, Lake of the Ozarks is Lake of the Ocean. It was rough out there on Saturday. There was a poker run or something. But you get in that big water and stuff starts loosening up.
It's hard on the boat. It's real hard on the boat.
Stephanie says, is forward-facing sonar like most electronics, buy it today and obsolete tomorrow? Or can you upgrade without having to buy the whole unit again?
You just upgrade the transducers, and usually they'll have a box.
There comes a point, though, right? Like you can upgrade, right. And then there's going to come like a cutoff point where you can't upgrade that anymore because it's just like a cell phone, just like anything else. You can upgrade until...
But it's usually multiple generations.
3 or 4 generations. Now, if you're buying old generation, if you're buying the 3-year-old one on sale at your local Bass Pro, that's on the holiday sale, and it's $600, and it was originally $1,600, that one's probably out of upgrades. or you may get 1 or 2 more years of upgrades. Now it's still a good unit, right? I mean, hell, I just quit using Gen 2 Lowrances this year, and had just a little bit of buyer's remorse. I'm not going to lie, because that Gen 2 picture was pretty dang good that I had.
Yeah.
And those are non-touch units. I mean, I like everything still worked on them, but I knew that eventually those are going to go out. And I mean, I only had 5 of them, so it was bound to determine one of them was going to go out. But I still got them on. They'll still go on the John boat for the lake at the house and keep it there for that. But depends on what, Stephanie, I think at the end of the day, it depends on what you're looking for. If you want good forward-facing sonar, you want the top of the line, yes. But you can get, Lowrance has great options for a budget-friendly forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
They have great options for budget-friendly side scan. I think every unit comes standard with side scan now.
It does. And like you said, I mean, and like they got the 3-in-1, stuff like that. And I mean, it's like anything, dude. Like if you want to get crazy, I mean, even like I'll say, for instance, like golf. I don't even know. Let's just go to some other sport. I mean, if you're like top of the notch, like, I mean, everything's going to get expensive at some point. Like, I mean, it just depends on how you are. I mean, if you're wanting to be competing with the best or whatever, I mean, that's kind of, you're going to lean towards more, you know, it kind of stuff gets like, you tell somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, you spent that much. And then you look at their hobby and I'm like, are you serious? Like, I mean, you would buy that? I'm like, so it's hard to look at it on a lot of different things. Cause I mean, it's what I love. It's what I do. It's my hobby. It's my work. I mean, not really, I wouldn't call it work, but it's my passion, you know? So, I mean, it's definitely hard to say on a lot of different things, but a lot of different companies like Garmin and everything like that, you can definitely put something together that'll get you just like everybody else. It's just maybe not just as expensive, you know, maybe not have a few shortcuts and have a few little gadgets or whatever. But like he said, I feel like there's a lot of deals out there that could get you going for not as much.
Hey, let's pivot to, I want to get in a little bit of tournament stuff talk here before we, get too far down the road. So first of all, congratulations on you're sitting in 6th place, man, in the Bassmaster EQs. That's phenomenal after 3 tournaments. You've had a great year, and in fact, you finished 2nd, right behind Ben Milliken on Toledo Bend. That's pretty sweet, dude. Talk a little bit about that tournament. I'm curious about how you approach going to these new lakes. You kind of touched on it earlier, not trying to fish the whole lake, kind of picking a section and trying to learn as much as you can about that. So going to Toledo Bend, you guys get 5 days of practice. Is that right?
4.
Okay. 4. So how did you approach that? And then talk a little bit about what you found and then going maybe into day 1 of the tournament.
Well, I mean, that lake is like by far the biggest lake I've ever been to. It's 185,000 acres. So if whoever that's local, Egypt is 2,500. So if y'all can just kind of grasp that. I mean, I don't know how many times. I'm not real good at math, but that's a lot bigger. And I mean, like anything else, like I with the dock talk, anything else like that. I mean, everything, it's gonna be one offshore, gonna be one offshore. And I follow that, the first 2 days gone, I idled. Daylight to dark. Brought me sandwiches, brought me as many stacks. I'm surprised I didn't gain weight. Just idling like crazy, just looking at everything, trying to find out what zone they were in, what depth, just trying to basically observe, just look at it. I'd see something, drop my live scope on it, just look around, and I'd find some fish out there, nothing crazy at all. I mean, I'd caught a few fish, and I was really getting disappointed. I was like, wow, it's hard, and I found a few schools, but they were like 12 to 1.5 pounds. I mean, inchers, crazy, like little bitty guys, but a ton of them out there on the spots. I'd find big schools, catching them on a jigging spoon. And I was like, well, this ain't gonna win me a tournament or whatever else. So then day 3 of practice, for some reason, I just got, like, here we go again. This is down towards the dam. There's not much shallow fishing. There is in certain places. Just depends on, but not my kind of shallow. bushes, willow trees, grass, just anything shallow they can hide in. And I got to looking on the map, and all of a sudden, north of the lake, whatever, I started seeing a lot of flat. Started seeing some some islands, started seeing some pockets. There was bushes, everything else up there. And I was like, you know what? Like, we're going to retreat. You know, we're going back to the home base. And I found a boat ramp all the way up there. I put in there, and all of a sudden I kept fishing around. You know, I hadn't had many bites. Like, this is day 3. I didn't have one spot. I thought I should fish in the tournament. Like, it's pretty bad deal. You know, you get to scratch. That's when you start fighting. You know, it's kind of gets nervous. And all of a sudden, I flipped up in a bush, and I just and pulled straight down. I was like, man, you know, probably oddball. And I go to the next spot that kind of looked like it. I pitched up there, had another bite. Pitch up there, had another bite. And by the end of the day, I had 27 bites I shook off flipping. And, I mean, that was incredible. I hadn't had that many bites in a long time flipping. And I felt this is another thing for a lot of people. Shallow fishing, not all these fish are going to replenish. So, I mean, if you go all the way back up at a creek and you see a 5-pounder come up on your frog and you got one day to the tournament, are you going to catch him or not? You know, it's hard to say, you know. But, I mean, most of the time, I would never swing on one. 3 days is my latest. When it's 3 days and closer to the tournament, I'm not going to swing. Not on much. I mean, very rarely. I will not swing on a fish. Now, 3 days and more, you can get away with it. You know, you pull up to a spot, you catch your first bite just to see the size, and then from then on, you shake off. But I feel like that helps me, has been helping me a lot on shaking off. Because I remember that tournament. I flipped up in the same bush I shook one off on. I caught one. And, I mean, it could have been that same fish. You don't know, you know. But, I mean, you might as well take it. What are you going to gain, you know? I mean, it might be a 9-pounder at Toledo Bend. You might be able to take a picture with it. But if you caught it in tournament, it might get you a check, too.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Multiple ways of looking at it. But I had found some fish flipping like that. And I was looking at the water schedule, and it was supposed to start dropping. So, and these were shallow bushes, like real shallow. So then I started, like, panicking, you know. I was like, well, they ain't going to be in the bushes by the time tournament gets here, and my bite's just going to fall. So I started looking offshore. And I don't know how it happened, you know, just meant to be. I was fishing bushes, and I was idling out, because you can't run hardly anywhere there. You got to run in the boat lanes. And I was just idling towards the boat lane for about a mile. And all of a sudden, I started seeing Chad pop up on the graph, and all of a sudden, his hump came up. I was like, that's a hard spot, you know? It's kind of weird. So I click it in neutral, shut it off, and I turn around and fire a Chartreuse and Blue 5XD out there. Crank it as hard as I can crank it. First contact with bottom, I caught like a 4-pounder. I'm like, whoa. Like, you know, okay.
You can't shake them off on a crankbait.
No, you can't. And that was the bad part. I was like, dude, I need you so bad. I almost gave him a kiss, you know. So I unhooked him, and I released him back. And I was like, so that really got me spinning, you know. I was like, I just idled for 2 days and not found anything offshore. And all of a sudden, I just stumbled across this. And I looked for a few more, and I found a few little areas or whatever. And playback, I kind of just forgot about it, you know, nothing else. And first day of the tournament, I started shallow on my best stretch, and I never had a bite. Like my co-angler caught one, so that don't help any. I mean, not to say anything about co-anglers, but he caught one. It rolls around about 10 o'clock here, and I don't have a keeper. And my co-angler
did the water fall? Like there were...
It was starting to. Now most of the time, like with falling water, fishing shallow, if it goes way back up in the trees and you got a trickling fall, not just like a dropout, sometimes it'll make it better. If you're if you're away from yourself. I mean, not everybody's fishing it. You're not a high pressure situation, and which it wasn't where I was. And because most of the time they draw it to the point stuff, the deeper stuff, and it's pretty simple. You know, you just flip up and all the deeper stuff that has enough water to hold one, and it just narrows it down so much. But it was tapered fall, whatever else, and it was kind of like a point island that had some bushes, and I had shook like 13 off on just a little bitty point right here, and I saw some big ones, and I planned on that's where I was going to catch them, and never had a bite, and I was kind of scrambling. You know, I thought about going offshore. Well, I pulled up on this one place, I had one bite. And there's a guy fishing it, you know, and I didn't know him from the blue. Here we go about talking to people, you know, and we were kind of chit-chatting back and forth. And I'm like, man, how many you got? Whatever. He's like, I got 3. Well, come to find out what he didn't tell me, one of them was a 9-pounder. And he had caught it right there where we were both sitting. And we were cool, you know. We were just talking back and forth. Well, kind of find out that day he had 21 something with a 9-pounder. His co-angler had 12 with two fish. And I had 21 off the same spot.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. And, I mean, he had fished around it. He was throwing a frog. He had fished around the stretch, anything else like this. And that's what he had caught the big one on. I couldn't imagine catching one like that. But anything else like that. And we were fishing or whatever, and we pulled up. He'd already went around it. I watched him from a distance go around it 2 or 3 times. And here we go fishing behind people too. And I pull up there, and I'm like, hey, man, you mind if I just go behind you, whatever else? And he's like, yeah, come on, whatever. So I was like, all right. So I drop the trolling motor, and I pull up. He was fishing out in front of the bushes. I pull up to the first bush. Right, we're a good distance away from each other, but he just fished around it. I pull up the first bush, power pull down. I get my bait rigged up, and I flip up to the base of it, and it slowly starts swimming off. I set the hook, and it was a 6-pounder. And I was like, dude, like, this is insane. I was like yelling and screaming because it's my first fish. And that dude looks over at me and just shakes his head like this. And I was like, okay, so I put that one in the box. So that was number 1. I move up a little bit, power pull down, second bush. I flip up there and catch like a 3.5-pounder. And I was like, this is no way. I put it in the live well, and I started like thanking the Lord because I was like, something started finally coming together.
Yeah.
And then I watched him catch one, and then I went to the next and didn't catch one. I went a few more and ended up catching 21 pounds off that one little place. And he had 21. His co-owner had 12. And, I mean, pretty incredible. And we both came back at the same time. The next day, we both shut down pretty close to each other. He beat me there. He was in the Bass Cat. And he started fishing. And I caught another, I think, 21 pounds off it. And I called one more time somewhere else and ended up with 23. So, I mean, that was one of the places where I only shook off one bite. I had no expectations at all for this spot. Maybe just pick up a keeper and something like that. And just kind of putting it together, you know, fishing a lot more turtle than that guy, anything else like that, or just different presentation, you know. And the second day, he had fished around it before I got there, and he actually missed one on a frog, and he power pulled down in this area, and he fished for 30 minutes, just power pulled down right here, and I'm off on the other side, flipping, you know. I'd caught 2 or 3, and they were nice solid fish, 3-pounders, and he'd missed it. Well, he just, all right, well, I'm going to leave, and he power pulled up and took off. Well, I kind of fish around. I saw where he'd missed it, you know, there in that same general area because I'd caught one there yesterday. And as soon as I power pulled down, I flipped up there, boom, and it was a 5-pounder, right in that same deal that he had lost that one. So, I mean, it's just crazy stuff, just meant to be. And the third day, I started offshore on a bar with a big swim bait. For some reason, I just got an itch. I was throwing a trap and a big swim bait off there on also like 4 to 5 foot bar. Everybody, and another thing, this is the good thing is too, is fishing something different. So like all this deal, it'd come off and just break off into the main river channel. And most of the time you sit out in the main river channel, throw up and drag it off the break. Well, I was power pulled on the very top of it, and I would throw off in the deep and bring it shallow. So like a total different presentation as most people would fish. It's just kind of like a local hot spot, you know. And that was another thing that I'd caught a few on, but I never had a bite the last day shallow. Not one. The water dropped just enough, and I pulled up to that hard spot. I had 3 fish, and I pulled up that hard spot. Like, you know, I had a 4-pounder here. Let's just try it. You know, just try it. I pull up and make 3 casts in a row and catch a 4-pounder every cast. Like,
oh, nice.
So, I mean, it was one of them tournaments that's just meant to be. But, I mean, it was pretty incredible. I tried catching him, but he definitely had something figured out with them big swim baits.
Do you think in that area that those fish had pulled away from what was your primary spot and moved to that section? How far away was your primary point and the section where you ended up catching the 220-pound bag on day 1, day 2?
Yep, it was hard to say, you know, and it really wasn't close enough for that to happen. It was kind of 2 different main creek arms or whatever else, but I could never figure out. I was trying to think that the fish, like it was in the, like if it was, they could have been late spawners, stuff like that, because they were definitely acting like it. Like I pitched up in a bush one time, and I had like a giant just kind of roll on it, kind of teen up on her side, stuff like that. Like a 5 or 6 pounder, just kind of nose on it and kind of roll, you know, how they do on bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, like that was crazy, you know, and I reel it in. And I fished a lot of those same areas. And I marked exactly where I had a bite because I knew it could have been a spawner, you know, and I'd fish that same place I had a bite just really, really hard. And I feel like some of them could have been just already just left where I found them spawning, just a perfect timing type of deal. And I feel like maybe a lot of them might have just moved off, something like that. Once they got done spawning, I could never really figure that out. And because it was really, it stumped me hard the first day because, I mean, I was expecting to go in there and just catch a 15 pounds pretty easy and, you know, save it. But it didn't work out like I thought it would. And that's like, for me, fishing, I don't go into a day with a game plan very much. Because, I mean, when you go into it with a game plan and you get disappointed, it's not great. You know, the mental attitude's not there. You're not fired up about it. You know, you sit there in the boat and you tie on all these baits for this one spot that you just think you're going to wear them out, and it don't happen. And, I mean, everything turns negative pretty quick for me in my case anyway. So that's why right now, most of the time, I have a general idea of what I'm going to do, but it's more or less just going fishing, really. I mean, everything on the fly. Trust your gut. I feel like there's a lot of it. But because that day, I mean, the next days after that, I knew I'd want to fish the island, but I hit 2 or 3 spots before that I felt like I really did need to hit. Just that I was running down through there, and I saw it. I'm like, let's just pull over and hit that. Never hit it in my life. Never hit one time in my life, and I actually ended up catching a 4-pounder off a place I never even fished in my life. And I run down through there, and something just felt right about it. And I pulled off and caught one. I think it went like 425, something like that. And I actually waded in. So, I mean, it's just crazy things. What fishing's a different sport than a lot.
Yeah. You know you're living right when that stuff happens, though, right? I mean,
it is. It's your day. You're right. It is your day.
But I mean, we've all been there on a day where I don't know how many tournaments that I didn't fish, that I showed up to the lake, whether it was at Cedar and I didn't have a partner that day and I just was going fishing and go over there and catch, you know, Cedar, you know how it is. You're not catching 5 over 18. You're catching 2 over 18. You go over there and you box up 14, 15 pounds and it took 11 to win. It's like, what in the world did I do today wrong? But I was just fishing, you know? And when you get to that point in your career or that tournament day, when you're just fishing, that's when you're the best.
Yep. I could not agree more. I mean, when you're so shook up about and having your game plan and you got it like on your notebook and you're like, okay, I'm going to fish here for 30 minutes and I'm going to go to this spot and fish for 30 minutes and go to this spot and fish for an hour and a half. And, I mean, if everything plays out, I mean, that's great. But I know if I do that, I'm usually very disappointed in how it did not turn out. And so that's like I would just, you know, you wake up in the morning, don't stress about it. It stresses me out when I stress, you know, it's a bad deal. You know, you get to thinking about it and it eats up your mind. You just over and over and over and over. And like anything else, I mean, I want to think about it till I can't get it wrong, you know. I mean, it's like that. But sometimes fish are not meant to be caught. I've learned that. Sometimes I've tried everything underneath the sun sometimes, and I still lose them, you know. So, I mean, it's just some fish, like I said, like bugs. I mean, I should have had an absolute incredible finish, you know. I had the first day I lost 6. The second day I lost 4. And every single one of them would have helped me. And all I did was have to have one. And just one of all them, and it would have moved me like 20 points.
Well, those weights were super, super tight at bugs.
Yeah, like just one of them. I still don't. I can't even start thinking about it now. But I mean, it was just stuff that would literally just sit on your knees and just look up at the sky and be like, Lord, why does this happen? You know, like just nutty stuff. Like on a drop shot, I don't lose many, to be honest with you. Like a drop shot, circle hook, I don't usually lose many. Like if I had any bait to tell you I want to land a big one on, it would be that one. I mean, be quite honest with you. I mean, that little hook, I mean, they can't hardly throw it if you get a good, and it's not a head hook set, just a nice silly stow and pull up on them. And I mean, it's hard to not get them pin good or whatever. And I lost 3 on a drop shot. I had no idea how, no idea. Just crazy stuff, you know. And I mean, a jerkbait. I put brand new G Finesse hooks. I mean, I swear, if you would brush your hand down it, it would go past the barb. Like they were so sharp. And these fish would just like grab it, mouthful, and just somehow magically come off. Not even jump, just pull off. And I mean, they had them like sideways, down their throat, everything, and they just, I don't understand it. But like I said, some fish are just not meant to be caught.
It chews on you too, man.
It does.
It just chews on you.
I tell you, it's 4 weeks ago about that. Well, probably farther along than that or later than that. That first big wave of spawners that comes up that before anybody gets up there shallow and you're up there flipping, when everybody else is still up there jerking, you're up there flipping. Those are the fish that, for me, aren't meant to be caught. Because I can drill them. I can slackline them with everything I got and watch them run to the boat and pull off. How in the world?
Yeah, well, anytime
I think
those spawning fish are weird. They'll grab very tip of the crawl and move it, and you sit there. I remember I was fishing Kincaid it was a little club tournament. This is like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was getting some pretty good bites. They were picking it up and they were moving it, and I was just getting air. And I'm like, holy cow. I mean, I missed like 4 or 5 of them. You know, I'd been fishing for quite a while. And I'm like, I got to get fishing a boat. And so I started letting these fish swim off with it for 5 seconds. And so I knew exactly which way they were going. And I would set opposite.
Like you were fishing.
Extended. It wasn't even a good hook set, but I moved the rod and the line far. I was totally exaggerated hook set, trying to go exactly the opposite to try to, and you still miss them.
Yeah.
It's just the way they're grabbing.
I'm talking though, like set the hook, have them,
and they pull
and
off.
they double you over at the boat, and it just dunk.
Yeah.
Now a lot of times, this is the thing I've seen a lot is when you're throwing let's just say for instance, like when I'm throwing a big flipping jig. Now it's amazing what a bass can hold on to. Like it is incredible. Now I mean I've had days where they bite so good and so hard. They literally, and it's another thing with a big weight too, they will clamp onto the head of that jig. I mean, when they bite it, they will clamp so hard. I mean, I guarantee you right now, you could take a jig, fluorocarbon, and walk out a good distance flip, and I could sit here and hold your jig like this. And you could set the hook as hard and everything like you want. There's so much stretch, and it's really unbelievable. I'd never believe this, and you probably think I'm crazy now. But you can literally sit there, and you can hold your jig. Have somebody do it. If you're sitting next to somebody right now, go get your rod. And
I'll let Jonathan hold the jig.
Literally. And I mean,
I'll get braid too.
Braid, different story. Fluorocarbon, you might get in there. But, I mean, you can sit there and hold that jig and slack line him, everything else like that, and you'll just barely move. I mean, it is crazy. But I've had them times before. One time I had a 5-pounder eat it, and I set the hook like this, and she just slowly come to the surface, and all she did was open her mouth, and you just see my jig just go, choo, straight past the boat. I mean, just like slow motion, not even like shove, nothing. She just literally opened her mouth. And I think, I know, I mean, I have a lot of people that would agree with me that I've fished, old timers, and Rick Cheatham agreed too. I mean, I do. I think they bite it so hard and clamp onto it a lot of times that, I mean, to break it free and get that hook in them, sometimes it's hard. And it's like anything else, even on a far cast too. And I've had it like right by the boat and then do it.
I mean, I remember the old lead days where before you had a painted lead weight, and I would get them in the boat and never be pinned, never have the bait exposed from the hook.
Yeah.
And there you could see the grind marks on the weight
from their teeth
where you flipped up there and 6-8 inches of water, they bit, you set, and they came into the boat and they just were holding on to the weight.
Yeah.
Yep.
So their entire weight, your force of jerking them, they held onto that weight and flew into the boat.
Yep.
I mean, a bass is amazing.
It is.
And frustrating.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah, I had one today, missed a topwater 4 times, and it looked like it just like demolished it. Like it would blow it straight up in the water, and I was like, oh gosh. It would hit, and he'd just blow it back up. And like they're probably multiple. They was multiple. There was like 3 or 4 of them I saw on live target. I threw over there, and I'm like, watch this. And you just seen one just shoot straight up, blow it out of the water, and the next one would hit it. The next one would hit it. The next one would hit it, and never even caught one. It was the only play I had on Topwater today. And I mean, like 3 or 4 blow-ups, maybe 5 blow-ups at the same time, and not even ever catch one. I mean, I just don't understand. It's a little Topwater, big hooks. Like, I don't understand it at all. But hard to say.
Yeah, it's the same when they hit it. They crush a crankbait, and then you got, or even a jerkbait. Geez, you got 9 hooks on a jerkbait, and they hit it.
I've lost more fish on a 5 and 6XD though than I care to even count.
Yeah,
I mean, you can feel them like suck it all the way down to their gullet and come up out there and just.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a new favorite. I have really, ever since that day at Toledo, I've been trying to make a 5XD work everywhere. I know that. I mean, it's addicting, like really, really addicting. Like now I got me a 7-Eleven Legend Glass from St. Croix, and it's pretty sweet. It really is. Like when you're just grinding, burning it, and all of a sudden it just kind of stops vibrating and goes slack, and you're just like, oh gosh, it's a giant. And it just started pulling. And the thing I like is when you feel the big head shake, and then surge, big head shake. I mean, that's really what I live for. Like, it's crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's my favorite bite in the world is a 5 and 6XD on a bigger rod.
Yep.
What's your three favorite colors of the 5XD? You got, I mean, chartreuse baby blue back, maybe? Is that one of them?
Yeah, chartreuse and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got, I think it's green gizzard, is it?
Yeah.
Tennessee shad or green gizzard?
There's
both of them. Tennessee shad's up there on my list. So
yeah, Tennessee shad is good. It just honestly depends there. I usually have like the blue back, and then I'll have me either a Tennessee shad, a natural one, and then I'll have me I forget it is a Tennessee shad. It would be on my list. And then there's one of the gizzards that I have right now. I got in the store, they had a good deal, and I bought a whole bunch of them. That's was one of my favorites. Like I gotta have it everywhere I go. But I've caught a bunch on Tennessee shad. That is true on 5 and 6XD. I haven't done much for the 8 and 10s. I haven't found many. So I know a lot of people like them on certain lakes like Pickwick, stuff like that when they get out there deeper. But I haven't thrown an 8 or 10 much. I mean, they'll pull my arm off. I'm a little guy. I got to eat some more potatoes before I start playing in that game.
You got to go down on gear ratio, man.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I tell you, that was the biggest thing. You know, it's not necessarily the rod. It's more the reel that'll wear you out.
You gotta get a 5-to-1 or
5 to. If you're throwing those big lips, and I'm talking the 6s, the 8s, the 10s, the DT22s, you know, all that stuff. You got to slow down, or it's going to wear you out.
I agree.
I don't have stovepipe for arms, so it's not fun when you've got 8 hours of it and your arms are just burning the whole time.
No, sir. That's like a sexy dog. You throw it out there and just twitch it and twitch it and twitch it and twitch it and twitch it. By the end of the day, I'm just like go like this with the reel, just to walk it. Like I mean, I understand.
When the last year Kentucky Lake was good, I fished with Brent Anderson's protege, and that's all we did. It was throw big top waters all day long. And I made day 2, and I go to throw a top water with my day 2 partner, and I couldn't move it. It would just go shoo, shoo, like old Seville out there. I had no like snap in it. My forearm was just trashed.
Yep.
But you watch those guys that do it all the time. They don't break their wrists. They just it's straight. They don't twitch like we do. So but if you do it it's the same way throwing a jerkbait in the wintertime.
Oh yeah. You do it for even an hour, you kind of start feeling it.
You get that burn in there. So
jerkbait in the winter, man. I have to grow some patience with that thing. I tell you, like this year on live scope when I really learned it. But I mean,
you don't have to be as slow as we used to, though, right? I mean, what we thought back in before forward facing was there. I mean, it was like twitch, scratch your butt, scratch your head, go get you a Pop-Tart, go back out there, twitch, and maybe there's one on there. Now you watching them eat it. I mean, you don't have to sit there and slow down that slow.
That's like, I know like a lot of guys or whatever, you tell me about that and everything, like 15 seconds was like short. I was like, dude, you've lost your mind. I'll catch them on something else. I'll drag my jig or something. But, I mean, there's times like in the winter like that, I mean, them guys just smoke them. I mean, like crazy. But, I mean, I've learned a lot this year with a jerkbait. I used to despise a jerkbait for some reason. And now it's probably, I mean, it's up there on my live scope and stuff. I love the live scope of jerkbait because you see some fish do some silly things with a jerkbait. I mean, some crazy things. I love when they circle it. Like, yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen it. Like, you'll twitch, and all of a sudden it'll light up and, like, circle it and then just engulf it. Like, that is one of the priceless moments. I mean, it don't happen all often like anything else, but sometimes that's awesome stuff. But, I mean, it's crazy. Like, one day I was twitching it, and I let him get real close, and I twitch, and I mean, I wouldn't slow down much, and all of a sudden, I twitch, and I kind of didn't notice it, but I was just kind of totally paying attention. Like there was a bird or a deer or something, turkey gobble up on the bank, and I would look at him, looking. All of a sudden, my rod just like pulled to the left, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got it. So I really, man. And I'm like, man, that was weird, you know. And I throw it out there. I watch the next one swim up on live scope. I just let him look at it, you know. I was just letting him, the pain and suffering for him, I let him look at it for about 10 seconds and barely moved it, and he just jumped all over it. And that day I had like a massive bag. It just slowing down just a little bit more like that and would trigger him to bite. Like I just don't understand it some days, but it has helped me a lot with forward facing, just figuring out how they want it, how they present it, stuff like that. But it's definitely a lot.
I was doing a video I was this winter, but I was testing mono and fluorocarbon with jerkbaits using live scope to see the depth that the baits ran. You know, obviously fluorocarbon is going to run deeper than mono, but I wasn't sure how much deeper. And so I had 10 or 12 different jerkbaits, you know, all the popular jerkbaits. And I was over there on Cedar, and I was just in a pocket that was out of the wind, had nothing to do with fish. I wasn't looking for fish at all. I just wanted a nice area where the wind wasn't blowing. I could get good audio and I could make a long cast and pull my jerkbait down. That was the whole goal. And I went through a couple jerkbaits, and I'm throwing a mega bass, threw it out there, jerking it down. And this fish comes off the bottom, and I'm like, oh, look, there's a fish coming, you know, and I'm talking about, you know, I'm showing the graph. I've got the grid on it so you can tell exactly how deep the jerkbait is. And I'm talking about, you know, how this one's different on fluorocarbon versus mono and whatnot. And here comes this bass kind of just coming up off the bottom. I'm like, oh, okay. And I jerkbait, and the bass just goes up like this. And I'm like, oh, he's just letting it go by, because usually that's what they do, let it go by. And this fish just turns and just bam, slams it from the top. I got it all on film, but it was so cool. It just came out of nowhere. I didn't even see it on the bottom, and it went up and kind of went above it, and then boom, came back down on it. That's the stuff, you know, you think most of the time they want to feed up, right? But that fish came up and went back down on it, and he moved, and he hit it and moved like 5 or 6, 7 feet. I mean, he hit it and just drove right through it like a linebacker, and got it all on video. It was pretty cool. But you see all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
It is, like, just seeing like some of the stuff. Like, I think here is like my main, like, has been the most fun. Like, there'll be a brush paw, let's say in 15 foot, and you'll see 5 or 6 fish, and you'll throw a topwater, and they will take off so fast out of that brush pile to get to the surface that it'll almost be like this, like Houdini, and then you'll see the turbulence, literally the turbulence of where they took off so hard right there, and then all of a sudden you'll see a streak about 5 to 10 foot, and then poof, it'll like just smoke your topwater. I mean, it's awesome. It's really, that's why I love this place. It's just that for that bite. I mean, it is crazy. It really is.
It's hard to not pull it away. Probably you got to wait on. You got to wait for it.
I think the worst is the dock. When I'm fishing a big swim bait or something around the dock, that's probably the worst, because I'll skip it way up underneath there, and I see this fish sitting in 10 foot of water, just shoots towards my big swim bait. I'm just like closing my eyes, just slowly reeling. I look away from the live scope, you know. I just like close my eyes and just try to feel for it, because I mean, yesterday or whatever, I was like trying to catch a big one, and I was looking at live scope, whatever. I saw him coming, so I tried not to panic, but I done the wrong thing. I looked straight at my bait because I can see it, and all of a sudden I just look there and I'm like, oh man, I can't see him, you know. And all of a sudden this like 5-pounder shoots out from underneath this float and just like engulfs my big swim bait. And I like, as soon as I see him open his mouth, I was like sweeping the rod as hard as I could. Like, you wouldn't think I'd do that, but I did get excited. And I had him on just for like a little bit, and he came off. Like, he just, as soon as he caught traction and pulled, he come off. But I mean, if I wouldn't have been paying attention, just took my time, I'd have caught him. But it is what it is.
That's the hardest thing about forward facing, right? You see them bite, and a lot of times, I know crappie fishing, you learn that a lot. You drop it down on them, and you see them just, you know, come one with it, and you automatically set the hook. It's like, well, hell, he wasn't even there yet. What are you doing? Just slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I was skipping a wacky rig at Lake of the Ozarks yesterday, and there was about a 16-inch spot on the bed up in about 3 foot of water. I could see it pretty good, and I'm skipping like a baby bass colored wacky rig, so it's got that white color, you know, on the belly, so you can see it pretty good. I skip up there, and I pull it within, I don't know, like 3 feet of the bass. And it's a Z-Man plastic, so it's falling real slow. I kind of stretched it, and I got a lot of the salt out of it, so it's super, super slow. And this thing's falling, and this spot just swims over there. And I saw him tip up and open his mouth. I mean, the whole thing took probably like 5 seconds from the time it sunk. And I'm watching it, and you can see it. It's like a motion picture. It's just flowing perfect. And you know what's getting ready to happen. He opens his mouth really slow and just grabs it. And I'm like, yeah. And I set the hook too. And I knew it was going to happen. And I still couldn't wait. And I missed the fish. At that time, I think we only had 4 in the box. So we, you know, it wouldn't have ended up helping us because we would end up culling it out. But at the time, it would have been nice to get that sucker. And then I'm like, God, why couldn't I just waited? But the anticipation, I was salivating for that hook set. I just couldn't wait to jack him.
It's like bait
and I
fishing,
blew it,
seeing them up there and they turn on it the wrong way and
Yeah.
your bait disappears. And
especially like with a frog, actually.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times. Like, I mean, Rick Cheatham, I mean, he almost takes the fun out of fishing a frog. Like, he would laugh if he'd listen to this right now. But, I mean, he'll literally have them blow up on a frog, and I'm, like, running to get the net, and he hasn't even set the hook yet. I'm like, dude, like, what the heck? Like, I
Free spools them.
And I'm just like, where's the net? Like, looking for it. And he'll literally just slowly reel up. Slowly. It gets tight, and then he'll set the hook. Like, I mean, that I can't do that. Now, that he catches a lot of them. But, I mean, that's the whole purpose for me to throw a frog is so as soon as he blows up, close your eyes, count to 3, and just try to just braid the rod on him. But, I mean, I feel like
we got two options, right? You're either going to eat the frog in your face or it's going to get in his face.
Right? And that's like anything. Like, I used to miss a ton of fish on a frog. Like, I mean, as soon as they'd touch it, like, I mean, I would be like, as soon as if my frog disappeared, it's either coming back at me or going to have fish on it. And this year I've really kind of slowed down with it, you know, just take a deep breath and just kind of reel up, get tension and set the hook. Like, it is crazy how many more fish I feel like I've caught. I don't know what it is about it. I mean, you would think once they come up to get it on the surface, they would have it. But I don't know if it's one of them things where once they go down, it like situates in their mouth right, where them hooks get a better grip. It's hard to say on it why I've caught a lot more fish, but when one comes up on it, I'll just kind of like I said, just take a good deep breath, kind of reel in and just kind of get tension with him tight and then just set the hook. I don't know what it is. Like, even in grass, open water, I've caught so many more fish this year on doing it like that with a frog. So
biggest change for me is rod angle.
True.
If you got your rod and you're down here, you're fishing like a jerkbait.
Yep.
I miss a lot more when I'm lazy. But when I high stick it, and you can give them the slack, like you're saying that Rick does, give them a little bit of slack, give them a little bit of time. You're already handcuffed right here. You can't go anywhere. Can't set the hook. You got to go down to them. I catch so many more with a high rod angle than not.
And physically, you know better, but physically it just happens. Like
you say that though. Like, first week of frog fishing in the fall, you forget about it. I'm missing every one of them. I promise you. He's blowing up and I'm jerking.
I always miss the first 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Unless they just really, really get it.
Yep.
Unless they set the hook on it themselves.
They can move the mat 4 feet from my frog and I'm setting the hook. I promise.
I know. I did. I understand that. I forget. Where were we? Oh, we were at Chickamauga back in. There was these mats. And I wasn't paying attention. I was looking somewhere else. Like, I wouldn't even look at my frog. I was twitching. And I kind of look over. I don't even know where my frog is, like, at this point. Like, I just see a blow up. And I was like, oh, no. I reeled down and just set the hook. I mean, I have a white frog. Like, you can obviously see it. But I wasn't taking any chances. I mean, you know, you never know. They can slip up on you. And I set the hook, and Rick turned, and it come back and hit him right in the back. He was not thinking so highly of me. But, I mean, it was all good. But, no, I mean, it's definitely – like, just taking my time this year, it's honestly changed, like, my outcome, like, so much, like, more than what I'd ever think. But, I mean, it's frog fishing. There's nothing like it. I mean, if I can frog fish, it's what I like. I even caught one on frogs today, skipping it way up underneath the dock. I had one blow up on it.
Yeah. I always kind of look forward to that first frog fish of the year.
And that's another thing. I try to throw it before everybody else does.
Yep.
Like,
it's a good grass bed bait.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even before that, like, I mean, last year, even at Kincaid, stuff like that, I was catching, let's see, probably 55. I'll start. Mm-hmm. I caught a six. It was like 2 years ago. No, not 2 years. Last year with my buddy, we were out there and we were throwing a chatterbait till it was blue in the face. And, I mean, we were catching a few or whatever, and all of a sudden I just kind of felt right, you know. It was a warm day. I mean, it started at, like, I don't know, 50, and it got to, like 55, 56. High 56 is what it was on that day. And I was like, you know, I mean, these fish should be getting that time. They should be sliding up there. Not to spawn, just sliding up, cruising, you know. And I pick up the frog, and 10 minutes later, I had one just kind of, in that early, they usually just kind of bubble on it. That's what I call it. It's just kind of where it's like, you know, it's just like they suck it like that, which is by far the best. And, I mean, I've caught, you don't get as many bites like that, but I've caught some giants doing that. Like, if I'm looking for a big bite early spring like that, I'm going throwing a frog. If it's 50 to 60, that's what I'm going to do. It's just real slow, patient, stuff like that. But when they suck on it, and you don't have many miss it then. Like, I mean, you don't get many bites, but when you do, you better hold on.
Yeah. And you think it's probably been what, let's see, end of November. So December, January, February, March. 4 months or so since they've seen most topwaters whatsoever. Yeah, I've caught them in March too. I've caught them good on cedar, like that 54, 55 degree water, like in second week of March. I've had a couple pretty good days. I mean, this year I didn't do it because I kind of got side. It's a weather thing. It's a situation thing. It didn't line out right for me this year.
Good warming trends. You know, the days leading up have to be right.
Yeah, but you can tell. You can kind of. I don't know, when you put the boat in, you're like, it might be a good idea to, you know, to tie one on and try. Just check it every once in a while.
It is, absolutely. Like you said, like a warming trend is always better. Like, I'm not just gonna be like, oh, it's cloudy, I'm gonna throw it. Like, it's not that type of thing for the cold water. But like you said, I mean, you get one day, you get like a cold front, and all of a sudden you got a warm day. Like a third day on a warming trend is like always good. Like, I definitely got one on the deck then.
You got muddy water too. Like some of those couple of those days, the water was less than 2 foot of visibility and like mid 50s in March. Yeah. They're going to be shallower, kind of looking around. So, you know, they're probably
they're going to be dirt shallow at that point.
Yeah, they're going to be up there, especially cedar. Those fish like to live shallow over there.
They do, on the back behind the grass edge.
We'll just stop talking about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I got to ask you a question. Living over there in Southern Illinois, being out on the lakes all the time and stuff, you ever ran across a Sasquatch, or you heard of anybody running across a Sasquatch? Any Sasquatch Bigfoot stories from over there in Southern Illinois? He's thinking pretty hard about it.
He's got one. I think he's got one.
So hang on. So like, can I just like, try what am I supposed to like? Just a story?
You got one. If not, it's all good. Okay. Yeah. Everybody's guessing numbers right now. So
okay.
No, we've only had. It's funny. We've had 4 people since we've been doing the live streams that have had some kind of Sasquatch story, and one guy was Matt Steffen, and he's from Wisconsin. Actually, I talked to Matt Steffen yesterday at 2 days ago. I talked to him down there at Lake of the Ozarks, and I was kind of giving him crap about that Sasquatch story, but
he regrets seeing it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he didn't even want to see it.
I haven't ever had like I know what I know, like you know, but I mean I've had some mornings at deer hunting, walking the stand that I guarantee you by the end of it I was running to this fan. Like I was getting up in that tree as fast as I could. I actually had one story that like it would like I said, this is a story, but it did happen. Like I was freaking out. I'm not really a nighttime guy. I like lights. I ain't gonna say I'm scared of the dark. I do not like the dark.
You're gonna sleep with the lights on tonight now because we're talking about Sasquatches.
My night lights over here, guys. But I mean, I was getting out there and I had my light on and I was walking through like a bedding area, you know. So I was like, I'm gonna be real sly. So I was like real sly. I got all the way through here, and all of a sudden I got to the leaves. So I'm like real quiet, and then all of a sudden I'm like slowly walking, but I kind of hear like, you know, like that's not my leaves, you know. So I stop, and all of a sudden it like I hear like and it just stops with me, like dead quiet. There's no like sounds, like nothing. And I'm like, I like ease a little bit more, and I hear it again. So I'm like, stop, and it stops, and it's just like dead quiet. So then I start like speed walking, and then I like check it again, and I still hear it. So then I finally get to the stand, and I climb that stand so fast. And then like after I got up the stand, I would sit still and like try to find out and listen for what it was, but I never even got to see it because it took like 30 minutes to get dark, and I could hear it like just like I mean a squirrel I don't think would be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know what it was, but that is my one scary story. I've been scared in the woods before, and I was not liking it.
Well, you know they can. Sasquatch can climb trees too, no problem.
Well, I felt safer because I had my gun ready up there. I was ready to shoot. So, I mean, if he had something for me, I had something for him.
I'm laughing, Trey, because I had the exact same story, but mine was duck hunting.
Duck hunting?
I kid you not. Like, dropped all my stuff. Well, so we hunt a lot of public ground, right? So drop all your stuff at the boat parking lot, maybe quarter-mile walk down the road, right? So dropped all my stuff off the boat. It was my boat that I just dumped in. It was a boat lane. I wasn't going to drag it down through the muck. Yeah. So gun, everything. It's, you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's dark. I'm by myself walking down the gravel road. Same thing. Like right next to me. I stop, it stops.
Yep.
I walk, it walks. And I mean, we're like step for step. And I can just catch the boat in the headlamp of my light on my hat. And I'm like, and it's right there. And it lets out a scream that will curl your hair like a woman getting murdered in the woods. And I am like down the road as fast as I can, full gear, jack 3 in there. And I'm like, I hope you can swim.
Literally, that's exactly what I said. I was like, just close my eyes. That's like the main thing. I mean, it don't even help anymore. I don't think, like, my instinct's always to run. Like, you know, like as a kid, like whatever you like, as soon as you shut the lights on, you got to hurry up and get in bed. Yep. But that's kind of how I am with a like tree stand in the middle of the night. I don't care for that. Like when I got buddies duck hunting, like so what? It'll probably get them. Like whatever, we're all good. Like I got 50% odds, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, when I'm like by myself deer hunting, and it's just like real sly. The main thing is I like try to sneak, and then when something else is trying to sneak on me, not good. Like it freaks me out. But
well, here you go. The thing about this one, come this October when you're sitting up in a tree stand, my buddy bow hunts a lot, and he goes up north into Canada, and the first thing they tell you is check your stand for a bear or a mountain lion.
I'm good.
Because they'll be sitting in your stand. Like that's a perch for them. He said there's been multiple mornings he'll look up, shine a light in the tree stand, and there's a bear sitting in his tree stand.
Holy cow, that'd freak me out.
Could you imagine?
No.
I'm going back to the house. Like, you can have it.
Yeah, no, I would not be the day for me. There's no way. It'd have to be like high rut. Like, it would have to be like November 10th, 12th, something like that. For
yeah,
me
but midday is just as good as first break of the day. Like, I'm good.
I agree.
Oh, Lord.
We got a winner.
I saw that.
Yep. Darius King.
This dude's my man.
Good dude, man. Yeah, send me your email address, Darius, and I'll get a hold of Brian tomorrow and send you a $25 gift card. We do this every Monday, too, by the way. People that are new on here, if you don't have anything going on Monday nights, stop back by. We're giving away a $25 Bait Works gift card every Monday.
And every once in a while we'll throw something else little in there.
Yeah, we'll be throwing in some extra goodies here shortly. Let's see if we got any more last-minute questions.
Scott Martin talked about the haunted
Bobcat or mountain lion.
Absolutely, it was one of the two.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards mountain lion, but I've had bobcat sneak on me in the woods before many times, and I've heard them shrill, and that was for my story. That was not a bobcat. So
I've heard that before. It's almost like that. It's like they make a weird sound some nights. Like it's weird.
I'll tell you what, Southern Illinois has a lot of bobcats, especially around Cedar. I see them quite often, you know. Multiple times a year I'll see them.
Yeah.
In the middle of the day, too. They don't care. They're just out there doing bobcat things, walking around.
Yep.
So
I'd say I'm gonna get me a cardboard cutout of a Sasquatch and stick it on the point there at Pomona. And the guys that fish Pomona know what I'm talking about. I'm going to put it out there on a Wednesday nighter and see how many bullet holes are in it. Come back next morning.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Yeah.
And listen to them in the
see how fast they can put their boat on the trailer and get out of there.
This would be like little speaker and have it like making some off the wall noises.
Yep.
Oh, that'd be classic. Yeah. Let's throw one more question out there and we'll wrap this sucker up.
Camden's a new face in here. I'm gonna get him. How many days a week do you fish, Trey?
Shoot. Ha ha ha. Well, I've been gone. Let's see. I left. I've been here. Well, I haven't been home in almost a month.
Really?
As of right now. So, I've been gone. It just depends, you know. Like when I'm not fishing, I'm not fishing. You know, it's one of them things where, like this year, I haven't fished much locally. Like I would say, on a normal day to basis, me at home on an off time, like you know, no tournaments. I would say I'm trying to fish 3 days a week at least. I'd say three days a week would be probably a pretty normal number for me on going to the lake. You know. Every once in a while I get more than that, you know, but I mean, 3 days a week, you know, you kind of get some free time, go in the evening for 4 or 5 hours, something like that. But I'm definitely at home. I do fish a lot at Egypt, like crazy time. Like I just try to learn every nit and pick. But this year I've done a lot, you know, I've traveled, you know, pre-practice has helped me a lot on a lot of these lakes. And I mean, and that's the thing about tournament fishing. I mean, sometimes it's hard to say. Like talent can only get you so far. I mean, and that's like a lot of things. I mean, if you get some people around some fish, I mean, you can, you know, if you get around them and somebody puts you around them, you can catch them. You know, I mean, it's something else about that. But I mean, if you can outwork that guy, like that's what I'm trying to do right now. Just pre-practicing all these, get any kind of information, get any kind of spot, any kind of sneak hole, like everything about that. Right now has been important for me, and just trying to outwork the next guy, the guy beside me, just trying to do a little bit more than he does. And it might give me that one more bite edge. It might give me just a little bit more that I might be able to finish a little higher, you know. That like last year at Bugs, I went for pre-practice and I was running down the lake, and all of a sudden I remembered I was finding these fry garters on these stumps, like an 8 foot of water. And I just hit me like one day. I don't know how. I was running down the lake and I remember a pocket that had one big stump out in the middle of this point, and I ran in there and I caught my biggest fish that day. I hadn't fished it since then, but anything else like that. So, I mean, like I said, definitely deal is just putting the work in for it. But I would say on average, I fish 3 days a week.
Okay.
It's amazing what 3 days consecutively on the water you can figure out. Yep. I don't get to do that a lot with full-time job, coaching baseball and all that. But when I put 3 days together, day one's tough. Day three's easy. It seems like most of the time you got something figured out.
You got a better idea at least.
Yeah,
you know, you can eliminate.
You feel a lot more comfortable when you're out there, and it's more of a natural progression at that point. It's not that I thought about this, and this. It's I've done that so many times. It's repetitive over and over. I'm gonna go do this, and this, and I'm gonna catch them.
Yep.
And you're gonna make better decisions. The more time you spend on the water, the better decisions you make. You got 1 day a week to fish. It's tough to figure them out. You might land on them. You might not. That second day, it gets a little bit easier. That third day, it's even better. So,
like you said, like local fishing, since you have you guys have so much history on like cedar or anything else like that, I've had it go both ways. You know, I mean, I've done some of my best fishing at Egypt with no practice. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's kind of crazy because there's two different ways of looking at it. Because if you start locally or whatever, and you fish that's like you see a lot of these pros and everything don't do so well on their home lake, you know, and then all of a sudden a guy will do really well on their home lake. But I mean, odds for me, I mean, it's really hard to do well at a tournament at Egypt. You know, it's one of the things I fish so much history, and I mean that's the thing. I'm like, man, I remember I caught a 6-pounder here, and then by the time you hit all those spots, it's the end of the day, and you got 12 pounds. You know, so history can hurt you and help you, you know, and you got to know that very fine line. So that's the thing with like fishing locally is sometimes just showing up, you fish with the most open mind possible and you do the best, or pre-fish for 3 days and you line them out, you know. So it's definitely one of the things. It's hit or miss.
Yeah. So I gotta ask just one more question. Scotty Edwards had chimed in a while ago. He asked a question a while ago. Do you miss fishing locally? And then he also said, did you miss fishing the Harkins tournament?
I did. But me and Rick Cheatham was actually going to try, like when we first started this, before I started traveling and everything, we were going to try to put a team together Me and him, and then we just didn't know who else and everything. Because I mean, Rick used to fish the Harkins like all the time. I mean, that's like the tournament on crab, you know. I mean, all hammers fish it.
That's been going on for like 50 something years, I think.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's nuts. I mean, it's awesome. And so I really do. I kind of do miss fishing locally. Like, I mean, Wren Lake, I got all like, I really do like that place. Like, it's a good tournament. Like, you know, it's one of them things where you can grind. I mean, I have my areas or whatever. Just, I mean, not more anything else. It's like a good point. It's high percentage type of thing, and I really do. I kind of do miss fishing locally. You know, just kind of miss seeing everybody because I mean here it's new faces, but like you said, we're getting new friends. Actually, the guy that fished against me on that island at Toledo Bend, we're rooming together.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Crazy. Yeah, so that's like that's what I'm telling everybody. I mean, don't be afraid to talk to nobody. That we hooked up. Actually, the third day he was done fishing. You know, he didn't make the cut or whatever, and he come watch me. He said, "I knew you'd be here," and everything else like that. So he come watch me and everything. He's got a video. A funny story for the last day. This man, I don't understand how, but after he'd watched me, he took his whole family out, or his cousin lives here, and they went crappie fishing. Well, you know this offshore spot I somehow stumbled across? There was a brush pile about, let's see, a good 10 yards or a good pitch away from this hard spot. Mm-hmm. And somehow or another, they had this bright idea. No idea how they found it, whatever else. They had tied up to a standing timber tree fishing this brush pile. I wish I could show the video. If I had a different phone, I would show you the video. He's got a video. I was literally like, I cast it, like I come up there and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You know, like I was just so shocked to see him. And he's like, dude, what are you doing coming out here? I'm like, I'm fishing.
So you guys hadn't talked about this before or anything?
No, he had no idea I knew this offshore place was here. Huh. And I had no idea. I told him, I was like, yeah, maybe I got this plan B. I'm gonna run and hit, you know. Nobody should know about this. Like crazy. It don't hardly even show up on the map. And when I pulled up out there and he was tied to a tree, like like a good pitch away from my hard spot. I mean, I was like speechless. He's like, dude, what are you doing fishing out here? I'm like, you know, I'm just trying to catch me one, you know. So he's like, all right, come on. And so they pulled up all their crappie jigs. I picked up my 5XD and literally threw, like, they could literally like not reach out. That's a little over exaggerated. But I mean, just a good pitch away from the boat. I had caught 3 of them big ones, 3 over 4 on that same cast right there. He's got all on video. He's got me casting up and reel my crankbait back. And I caught 3 of them right there, like crazy. Like I didn't even, like it was shocking. It was just meant to be. And now we're rooming together. We room together at Bugs Island. Like we're good friends now. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like you said, the Lord put some people in your place. You just don't know why. So
that's good stuff, man. That is good stuff. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Any shout outs before we go? You want to thank anybody or anything like that or anything?
It's like anything else. I mean, I want to thank all my sponsors. I mean, like you said, this place gets expensive, you know, all the people that's pushing behind me and everything. I want to thank, like you said, my support group, my family, everything else like that. And like I said, we're just going to keep on trying to run with it. And hopefully y'all can tag along. I'll say I'm Trey McKinney Fishing. We'll hopefully have an eventful year. Like you said, some fishermen be caught, some are not. So we're gonna see. I'll leave for Wheeler here in a little bit. Go there and see what's going on. So hopefully we'll make the elites this year.
Absolutely. And you got the All-American coming up. That's this weekend, or
actually, okay. How on this is I'll leave Thursday or Friday to go to the Wheeler, and then I'll fish Wheeler, and then I'll go home for a day, and then I'll drive back to Hartwell and fish the All-American. It's only got 2 days of practice though.
Okay.
So, that one won't be going too long, and then I come home for a little while. And I got me a couple weeks off and chillax and get all stretched out, and maybe get to, like he said, I'm gonna hopefully try to fish some local stuff.
Now, you get your own boat in the All-American now, or is it?
It's your own personal.
Okay, I thought they changed that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's honestly cool. It's a pretty cool deal. Hopefully, like that's the main thing. Like I thought Toledo would have like the Bass Live or anything else like that. So it would be pretty cool, like to make the cut. You know, there's a lot of incredible fishermen on this deal, and I mean it's crazy just to have the opportunity to compete with them. You know, so hopefully we can see if we can catch this one.
Yeah,
there you go.
Well, cool, man. Man, it's been cool to meet you. And I mean, I've fished in tournaments where you're fishing, and we never really actually talked. I think one time we were paying for entry fee over at Kincaid like one fall, and I said something to you, but it was good to hang out with you. And we're pulling for you, man. We're pulling for you. Wishing you the best of luck, and we'll definitely be following. I got all your social media links in the description box in this video, so people can jump on there and go over there and give Trey a like and follow along, because he's doing some big things, and you got a good level head on your shoulders. You got a good support group, and so far the season's going excellent. So best wishes moving forward, and we'll be following you and rooting for you, man.
Keep it up, brother.
Thank you, buddy. Good luck to all y'all.
All right, man. Talk to y'all later.
We'll see you guys.
Okay.